Outside the dilapidated Gwangyang City Hall, Kim Suho and others were seen standing there with a middle-aged couple. The middle-aged couple then gave Kim Suho a large parcel in their hands, and when they opened the large parcel, Na-yun's eyes then lit up when she saw a lot of food and various fresh vegetables inside. The middle-aged man smiled at their joy. He said that this was their way of thanking them for driving away Ashura. Even though he said so, but Suho was still hesitant. He asked, "Are you sure you will give us this much gift?" Hearing his hesitation, in a grateful tone, the middle-aged man replied, "Of course, because thanks to you, our people are finally free from the tyranny of Ashura. You don't know how far he tortured us for that damn mana crystal, so we are really grateful." Hearing that, Suho did not hesitate anymore and happily accepted their gift. A middle-aged woman then said that they had just finished cooking and invited them to come eat with them. Na-yun and Young-han's eyes lit up when they heard that. They certainly did not refuse and thanked them. After that, they then began preparations for the big cook. Seeing Ha-jin who had only grilled the meat, Young-han then said to him that he should also eat. Hearing that, Ha-jin only said that he could grill and eat the meat at the same time, but, while Ha-jin was eating the meat he grilled, his attention was then distracted when he heard someone's laughter there. When Ha-jin looked in that direction, he then saw Na-yun and Jong-hak who were sitting with several men. They seemed to be telling something interesting to the two of them. One of the men said that he heard quite a lot about Suk. Apparently, Gangnam was divided between Shin Myungchul and Chai Juchul. Na-yun looked enthusiastic when listening to the story. Jong-hak was the same. He then asked, what was the public opinion about Shin Myungchul? The middle-aged man chuckled at his question. He said that he was a great person. He brought peace to the entire Gwanak district. Jong-hak smiled proudly when he heard that, but the middle-aged man's words did not stop there. He said that he was still out there, saving many lives. Jong-hak was then shocked at the news, not realizing his change. The middle-aged man continued to tell about Shin Myungchul. He seemed very impressed with him. In times like this, there is no one else like him. The other man also agreed with him. He had seen him fight once, and he was very great. But, while they were talking and admiring Shin Myungchul, Jong-hak suddenly became silent at this time, which was different from his enthusiasm before. He then quietly walked away from there. In contrast to Shin Jong-hak, Na-yun did not lose her enthusiasm. With an admiring face, she then asked, "Then, what about Chai Juchul?" Hearing that, the middle-aged man told her, "You can't believe it, I once lived for a while in Seoul, and there is something about him that feels slippery like a snake." Na-yun could only feel surprised and confused to hear that. She then laughed tastelessly in response to his words. As Ha-jin was grilling the meat and listening to their stories, he was then confused when he saw Shin Jong-hak who silently walked away from there. He was confused. Why did he react like that when they talked about Shin Myungchul? Shin Jong-hak's character is supposed to revere Shin Myungchul in the story. He wondered, is there a problem with the storyline? Realizing that, Ha-jin then asked Young-han to take care of the cooking for a while and immediately ran after Jong-hak. Although Young-han felt confused, but he then agreed. Shin Jong-hak went into the forest and walked alone there, but he suddenly stopped his steps and sighed, with a somewhat annoyed face. He then asked Ha-jin why he kept following him. Ha-jin was surprised to learn that Shin Jong-hak realized that he was stalking him. He then could only scratch the back of his head in shame. He was confused about what to do. He couldn't say that he wanted to protect the original storyline right. Seeing Ha-jin who was just silent, Jong-hak annoyedly said that he asked him why. Ha-jin was immediately stunned to hear that. He then told him that the meat was ready. The environment was suddenly silent after he said that. Ha-jin himself didn't seem to expect that he would say such an absurd reason. After a moment of silence, Jong-hak then said that he understood. Although it was a bit unexpected, but somehow, he managed to avoid it. Ha-jin was quite grateful for that, but Ha-jin suddenly hesitated at this time. Now that he had followed him unceremoniously, should he ask him something first? In the midst of his hesitation, Jong-hak suddenly asked him, "What do you think of Shin Myungchul?" Ha-jin was then surprised by his sudden question, but he was happy with the question he asked. This question should make him able to read Shin Jong-hak's reaction regarding it. He then answered that he was a hero who saved the world. He was a person who deserved to be admired by everyone. Shin Jong-hak suddenly laughed amused when he heard his answer. He felt that it was an answer that only commoners like him could give. Ha-jin was confused by his negative reaction. After pondering for a moment, he then said, "But from what I know, Shin Myungchul never cared too much about class differences. But, what Hajin did not expect was, his words turned out to get a strong reaction from Shin Jonghak. Hajin was shocked to see Jonghak suddenly come forward and attack him. He could only swear at Jonghak's fist that was very close to his face and immediately activated bullet time. Hajin was fortunately able to dodge his attack thanks to his reaction speed enhanced by bullet time. He then immediately retreated backwards to open the distance from him. Looking at the small crater created by Shin Jonghak's fist, Hajin broke out in a cold sweat. If his attack managed to hit him, at least some of his bones would be broken. He knew this must be his unique constitution, where his physical abilities increased based on his anger level. A reddish aura seemed to be enveloping Shin Jonghak at the moment. Hajin realized that this was Jonghak's berserker mode. Without saying anything, Jonghak then attacked him heavily. Seeing the speed of the attacks Jonghak threw, Hajin realized that he was really angry at the moment, but what made him confused was, why was he reacting this strongly to Shin Myungchul? Was there a deep reason that he didn't know, while avoiding the attacks that Shin Jonghak threw? Hajin then asked him to calm down, but Jonghak angrily said that people like him were always the problem. If people like him were not that weak and always needed others to protect, then his grandfather did not need to sacrifice himself. If he did not sacrifice himself, he would still be here with them. Hajin was surprised to hear his outburst. He now finally knew why Jonghak reacted like that. When Hajin's attention was distracted by his words just now, Jonghak then threw a fist at him, but fortunately Hajin was able to react immediately and block his fist. But even though he managed to block the fist he flew, the impact of the attack still made him fly backwards. After repeatedly throwing his attacks at him, Jonghak's anger seemed to subside somewhat, which made him not continue to attack Hajin. But, Hajin then said to him, even so, I don't think Shin Myungchul ever regretted his decision. His words reignited Shin Jonghak's anger. He angrily asked him, what do you know? Hajin's face was very calm when facing his anger. He then replied, isn't he protecting his family? Isn't it in your heart? You also respect that part of him. His words seemed to surprise Shin Jonghak, and succeeded in diffusing his anger. After being silent for a moment, he then chuckled and released his grip on his shirt. He felt that he really didn't know when to stop acting up. After finally succeeding in diffusing Shin Jonghak's anger, Hajin then breathed a sigh of relief. Although his face looked calm earlier, but in fact his heart was beating very fast because of fear. Just before leaving there, Jonghak then called him and said to him, if you tell anyone about this, then you will die. Hearing that, Hajin could only feel confused. He could not think of what he was talking about this to anyone. Jonghak chuckled at his answer. He also realized that. He said that just in case. After that, Jonghak then walked away from there and returned to the camp. After finally clearing up his confusion, Hajin breathed a sigh of relief because it turned out that nothing serious had happened. He did not expect Jonghak to miss Shin Myungchul so much. He was not a character who was born evil, but, even though he created his character, but Hajin now realized that there were still many things he didn't know about him. While Hajin was thinking about it, he was then surprised when he heard a notification from his smartwatch, and when he opened his smartwatch, he was then surprised by the message that appeared. You do not have the authority to view the storyline change of Shin Myungchul. Hajin was surprised to read that Shin Myungchul's character background had changed. He's a core character of this world though. Hajin was really confused about what exactly happened after reading the message, but unfortunately, no one would clear up the confusion that Hajin was currently experiencing. While squatting, Yonghan then handed a bowl of rice to Hajin and asked him to take it. Seeing that, Hajin was then confused why Yonghan suddenly handed him a bowl of rice. Realizing his confusion, Yonghan immediately said that this was for Yona. She was still not fully recovered, but Hajin was still confused. Why did he give it to him and not to others? Hearing that, Yonghan then pointed at Suho and others who were busy chatting with the residents in the past. They were too busy chatting there. Seeing that, with a bowl of rice in his hand, Hajin then walked up to Yona. While Yanga was fantasizing about Jonghak, she was then surprised to see Hajin suddenly in front of her. With a funny smile, Hajin said that he brought her food. Seeing Yona who was lying there helplessly, Hajin humorously asked, "You're just pretending to be weak, right?" Yona then immediately refuted that. She said that she really couldn't lift even a spoon, but, right when Yona said that, she was then surprised when Hajin suddenly crammed a mouthful of rice into her mouth. Facing that, Yona then irritably asked him what he was doing. Hajin chuckled at her annoyance. "You yourself said that you couldn't lift a spoon, so I fed you." the reason why Yona pretended to be weak. Hajin guessed that she was planning to lure Shin Jonghak to cane her. Hajin grinned mischievously at the thought. He felt that she was very predictable. Realizing that Hajin had seen through her pretense, Yona immediately felt embarrassed, but she covered it up and said that the taste of the rice was too bland. Was there no other food? Hearing that, Hajin replied that he thought there was still one packet of ramen left. He told her to finish the rice first and he would give it to her. Yona's ears immediately stood up hearing that. She looked forward to it. After a while, Yona finally finished the bowl of rice he brought. Seeing that she was still able to eat, Hajin then confusedly asked her why she didn't go out and chat with them. Hajin was also quite surprised to see that Yona immediately finished the rice. While lying back on her bed, Yona said that she didn't have the energy to do so. Hajin realized that she was just pretending and no longer forced her. But, just as Hajin was about to walk away from there, Yona suddenly called out to him, in a low voice. She thanked him. Yona felt a bit bad because it seemed like it was always her who received the help. Hearing that, Hajin neither refuted or gave her words of comfort. He asked when she would pay him back. Yona chuckled at that. She asked if he forgot who she was. She would pay him back immediately and with interest. Hearing that, Hajin felt that she was really the kind of person who never shortchanges on that kind of stuff. Yona smiled a little at that. She said that she thought they would be good colleague. Hearing her words made Hajin pensive for a moment. Judging by Yona's bright future, Hajin thought being close to her was probably the best way to secure his future, but, Yona suddenly said that she could also help him get close to Nayun even. Hearing that, Hajin immediately said that he didn't need to. His answer then surprised Yona. She immediately asked him, "Are you really into Rachel now?" Hajin's face immediately darkened hearing that. He said that he wasn't into either of them. He didn't have much time to do things like that. But his words weren't very convincing to Yona. With a mischievous smile, Yona told him to just be honest with her. With a dark face, Hajin angrily said that he wouldn't give her ramen. Yona then panicked hearing that. She then immediately stopped Hajin who was walking away and said that he couldn't do that. Hajin actually didn't really want to do that and just wanted to tease her. He then asked Yonghan to cook Yona ramen. Yonghan was then confused by his request. He thought Yona didn't like instant food. Yonghan then walked to Yona's tent and asked her directly, "Yona, Kim Hajin said that you want to eat ramen, is that true?" Hearing that, with a somewhat hesitant tone, Yona said, "If you make it, I will eat it." Meanwhile, seeing Hajin who was about to start his motorcycle, Soho then confusedly asked him, "Where are you going?" Hajin said that there was something he had to take, but Hajin did not explain it further to him. There are items in this era that he wrote in the story's background guide, but were never used in the story. If he brought them back, they would be very useful. When another day arrives, feeling that his hair was too long, Hajin then decided to trim his hair. He was assisted by the residents of the past in trimming his hair. After a while, after they finally finished trimming his hair, Hajin then amazedly looked at his new look in the mirror. While wiping the sweat from his forehead, the barber then asked his opinion regarding his work. It goes without saying, Hajin looked very satisfied with it. He couldn't even believe it was himself when he looked in the mirror. Nayun was also surprised by it. She wondered, what kind of magic is this? Soho also told him that it suited him, and when Hajin opened the system, he apparently got the touch of the master barber buff, which made him get an additional 0.5 charm temporarily, with a duration of 4 weeks. Reading that, Hajin then asked the name of the barber who had cut his hair earlier. Hearing that, while laughing happily, the barber asked if he liked it. He also told his name. His name was Kim Wusiak. Hearing that, Hajin then asked him again, "Do you have any children?" The residents in the past were also amazed by Kim Wusiak's work. His barber skills seemed to be famous among them. Hearing Hajin's question, Kim Wusiak then replied, "I have an 8-year-old child. His name is Kim Hajin." Hajin smiled happily hearing that. He thought about finding him no matter what. He felt that Kim Wusiak's barber talent must have passed down to his child. Seeing Hajin's new look, people then said that he looked more handsome after the haircut. They also thanked him for defeating that bastard tyrant alone, but, they also regretted, because they knew that they would be leaving today. They realized that this would be a parting moment for them. Hajin could only be silent hearing that. He also looked a little sad at this time, but he knew that he could not do anything. After they settled in 1972 for 2 weeks, they not only trained and sparred, they also expelled the criminals who relied on the power of Azura, bringing peace to this place. Whenever there was a mana explosion or monster invasion, they joined forces with the locals to deal with it. With that, it was only natural that they became close to them. Yona made use of those new friendships, to find anyone who might be the ancestors of famous figures in the present day. Yonghan and Nayun played with the kids every day. Jonghak created another clique of his own, and Suho helped the residents with repairing all sorts of facilities. Seeing Suho, who always helped the locals, Hajin thought that Suho was that kind of person. However, feeling a little guilty, Hajin thought, that still doesn't change the fact that I killed a few of the people of the past. I'm not sure if the city hall's people actually know that or they're just feigning ignorance. They really welcomed me and treated me very nicely too. Hajin still doesn't seem to be used to the warmth they gave him. If he was honest, he was actually comfortable living here, with simple and honest people, with the brilliant sunshine, the gentle breeze blowing. They left some pleasant memories here, but now, he knew that it was time to leave. While bowing, Hajin then thanked them for everything. They smiled a little at that. They said that they were the ones who should be thanked. They also asked if they could meet them again. They realized that they were all destined for great things. They were also sure that someday they would hear about them on the news. Hajin could only feel depressed hearing that, but Hajin decided not to tell them the truth. Sometimes, ignorance is a good thing. After saying goodbye to the locals, Suho and others then said goodbye to Hajin. Hajin himself decided to enjoy his last moments here. Looking at the sun that was about to set, he felt that the scenery was very beautiful, but he was then surprised when he heard someone coming. It was Shin Jonghak. While throwing the crystal towards him, he told him to catch it. Seeing that, Hajin then quickly caught the crystal. Hearing that they were about to leave, the young men who idolized Jonghak then sadly asked if this was really a farewell. Jonghak seemed to be quite sad about it. He said that he would not forget them. While Jonghak and his group were sad together, Yonghan then from below called Hajin. He said he would throw the crystal to him and told him to catch it. While catching the crystal he threw, Hajin then thanked him. Not only the two of them, Yona and Suho then also came to him and handed over the crystal. When Hajin was about to take the crystal, he then realized something. He confusedly asked her, "Why are you wearing high heels?" Hearing his question, Yona proudly replied, "I got them as a gift. There are a lot of people who like me after all." After saying that, Yona then saw Nayun who walked towards them. And when Suho handed the crystals to Hajin, he was then confused when Yona suddenly pulled him away. When Nayun finally went upstairs, seeing the crystals in Hajin's hand, she then realized that she was the last one. She then asked, "We're going back to reality now, right? Can I take a look around?" Hajin was fine with it. Now, with the crystals in his hand, all he needed to do was to infuse the stigma's mana into the crystals. In the process of infusing, the crystals then merged, and solidified into a ball. And when Hajin smashed the crystal ball, the world in front of him suddenly seemed to be distorted, until it showed shards like glass. Seeing that, Nayun suddenly called him and said, "Have you ever imagined? Is this what it means to forget?" Hajin was then confused to hear her suddenly say such a confusing thing. Nayun continued, "It's just that this makes me think. Memories fade as time goes by little, no matter how hard I try. I can't remember my mother's voice. Even the beautiful memories start to fade. It feels like the memories start to crumble, like this world." Hearing that, Hajin worriedly told her not to think about it too much. The saying goes that a flower that never withers will have no fragrance. Memories are more precious because they can be forgotten. Memories must fade and wear down to some extent so that they can become someone's precious memories. Nayun chuckled at his words. She felt that it was just nonsense. It didn't comfort her at all. Hajin was silent for a moment at her words. The fear of forgetting. He also understands that. After taking out something, Hajin then handed it to her and told her to take it. Nayun was then confused by it and asked what this was. Hajin replied, a ticket that allows you to go see the flowers for a little while." Hajin said that this was a time capsule, but Nayun was still confused by it. She seemed to have never heard of such an item. While pointing to the time capsule, Hajin explained, "Did you see the number there? If you change it, you can go back in time to the past. More precisely, this item can make you relive the past buried in your subconscious." But, Nayun said that was not what she meant. She asked, "Didn't you look for this so you could use it yourself?" Hajin was silent for a moment hearing that. He then asked back, "There's no use in me using it. It's not as if I know what they look like anyway." But, even though Hajin said like that, to be honest, Chai Nayun was right. He was looking for this item in case the memories of his parents started to fade. In the past, there were several items that he wrote in the story background guide, but never used in the story. Besides, this body originally belonged to Kim Chundong. So he didn't know if the item would work on him or not. Rather than wasting his mana, Hajin thought it was better if Chai Nayun used it, but, after listening to his explanation, Nayun said that she wouldn't use it either then. Hajin was then shocked to hear that. He then confusedly asked why. Nayun stubbornly said, "I will only use it if we both use it, or not at all, only then is it fair." Hajin really couldn't understand what she was saying, rather forcefully. Hajin told her to shut up and just do it, before she regretted it later. Nayun seemed to be overwhelmed by his coercion. Hajin explains that memory will never break, it would still be there, stored deep in the heart, so he told her not to worry and just do it. Nayun blushed at his comforting words, feeling that he had succeeded in convincing her. Hajin then asked her, "What time would you like to travel to?" Somewhat hesitantly, Nayun replied that she wanted to go to 2013, March 13th. After saying that, Nayun then immediately used the time capsule and headed to the time she wanted. The day she was headed to was her birthday, so, when she opened her eyes, the first thing she saw was a variety of gifts and birthday cakes in front of her. She has now returned to her form when she was a child. Nayun was really shocked and couldn't believe what she saw. She didn't think she would actually go back in time. She was also very happy when she saw the birthday cake specially designed for her, and when she tasted the cake, the taste was even the same as what she remembered. But, when Nayun was busy eating the cake, someone suddenly came from behind her. The person asked her if she had eaten the cake. He asked her to wait for a while and eat it together. The person's voice was a voice that was both familiar and unfamiliar to Nayun, and when Nayun looked back, she then saw someone she missed a lot, her older brother, Chai Jin-yoon. With a gentle smile, Chai Jin-yoon then wished her a happy birthday. Chai Nayun held her skirt tightly when she saw him. She thought that she couldn't cry. So, with a sweet smile, Nayun then greeted him back. Nayun thought that she couldn't cry on a happy day like today, because today was her only birthday. When all her family gathered, all her family came to give her gifts. They looked very fond of her, and Nayun also seemed to enjoy the moment. And when almost all of her family had given her gifts, came someone she missed very much. While walking towards her, the person asked if the event had started. She apologized to her for being late. She was busy wrapping the gift, and when Nayun turned and looked at the person, she then could not stem her tears anymore. With a gentle smile, the person then called her and wished her a happy birthday. Seeing that, Nayun then ran with all her strength, and hugged that person. She was then surprised and confused by the sudden hug that Nayun gave her. Nayun cried very loudly in her arms. She was the person she missed the most, because she was her mother. Seeing Nayun suddenly cry, her mother then confusedly asked her if she was okay, what was wrong. Seeing that, her father and grandfather wondered if she was worried if her mother would not come. They felt that it was natural, after all she was still a child. Her mother also thought so. She thought that Nayun must be scared. She then immediately calmed down her daughter. She said that she would always be by her side. Nayun smiled happily at that. After Nayun finally calmed down and her crying finally ended, her brother then showed her the scooter that he had gifted her. After all the family members finally gathered, this was the time when they would cut her birthday cake. While holding Nayun, her mother wondered if it was time for them to blow out her birthday candles. She then said to Nayun if she closed her eyes and prayed before blowing out the candles, then her prayer will be answered. Nayun was just silent while deeply pondering her mother's words. Honestly, she felt that her prayers had been answered, because she could see her mother again. But if she could be a little more greedy, she begged as much as possible, don't let her forget the memories of this day. After that, Nayun then blew out her birthday candles. But, Nayun's wish was not only that. While turning to her elder brother, Nayun silently prayed that she could meet her elder brother again. After a small episode of using the time capsule by Nayun, they have now finally returned to the present. When Hajin opened his eyes again, he found that he had returned to the Wind Mountain. Shortly after that, Hajin then heard Nayun's voice calling him from behind. Seeing that, Hajin felt like the others had also returned safely. He didn't know why, but the time capsule didn't disappear even though Chai Nayun already used it. But for some reason, the required mana charge appeared. He has checked it with the system, and the amount of mana needed was 15,000. That amount was too much for him even for a one-time use, so she decided to let Chai Nayun use it. Hajin just felt that it was like an expensive toy that was actually useless. After finding Hajin, Nayun then confusedly asked where the others were. She felt that they should be around here, but, while Nayun was looking around for the others, she was then confused when she saw Hajin, who suddenly walked away. She confusedly asked where he was going. She told him that it was the way down from the mountain. Hajin said that he knew that. He wanted to go home. Nayun was surprised and confused to hear that. She asked if he didn't want to practice. Hearing that, with a haggard face, Hajin replied no. He said that he was very tired now. Hearing that, Nayun finally realized that. She felt that it made sense because he was in the past longer than them. With a bit sleepy, Hajin asked her to tell the others about his leaving. Nayun understood, but, when Hajin was about to walk away, Nayun suddenly remembered something and called him back. With a grateful face, Nayun thanked him for everything today. She also promised to treat him to a meal later. Hajin smiled slightly at that. He said that he understood. He felt that Nayun looked very happy. It made him wonder what good memories she saw. After parting from Nayun, Hajin then looked around to make sure no one was there. It seemed that Hajin had lied to Nayun about him going home, because he will settle his business with Tomer first at this time. Tomer a while ago sent him a message containing her account number. She asked him to send the money here. She will return it as soon as possible. Before coming to Wind Mountain, he made Tomer sign a loan agreement and a mana oath. Tomer at that time was very reluctant and even questioned him if she wanted her to sign such a crazy thing. Hearing that, Hajin asked her back if she thought he would hand over that much money for free. Since Tomer had sent a message with a remittance request, it meant that she had agreed to the contract. Hajin did not hesitate anymore and immediately sent the specified amount to Tomer's account. Shortly after that, he then received a notification regarding the receipt of the Violet Banquet information fee from Tomer. He was quite surprised that Tomer paid the information fee as soon as she received the money. After that, Hajin then thought that he would change the name Fernan Jesus to the fake name Benjamin Agus, but his attention was then immediately distracted when she heard the sound of hurried footsteps, and what worried him was that the footsteps were coming from a familiar direction, and when he got closer and finally saw the person, he was then surprised to see that it was Chai Nayun. Nayun's face looked very anxious and panicked at this time. Hajin was really confused as to why she suddenly left in such a hurry. She also had to look that serious, but he then immediately realized something. He wondered if this was something related to Chai Jin-yoon. The reason why Hajin could guess that this problem was related to Chai Jin-yoon was because of the panicked expression on Nayun's face. When Hajin ran down the mountain, he then finally saw Nayun, who was currently standing confused at the entrance gate. She realized that she was thinking of a way to go there. Realizing that, Hajin then changed his suitcase back to the form of a motorcycle. While riding the motorcycle, Hajin then called Nayun. Nayun was then shocked when she saw him suddenly behind her. Without explaining further to her, Hajin hurriedly asked her, "Where do you need to go?" After that, after riding for a while, they finally arrived in front of a building. Seeing Nayun arriving there, a neatly dressed man then immediately approached her and said that they were waiting for her. Seeing him, Nayun called him the manager and hurriedly asked him about her brother's condition. The manager did not explain to her further and immediately took her to the ward first, but, when Hajin was running after Nayun, he was suddenly stopped by the guards. They apologized to him. Only family members were allowed into the room. Nayun was then surprised and immediately stopped her steps when she saw that. Nayun was a little hesitant at this time, because after all, it was Hajin who brought her here. Seeing Nayun who suddenly stopped, Hajin calmly called her and asked what she was doing. He told her to go there immediately. Nayun was silent for a moment hearing that. She then thanked him and immediately ran towards Chai Jin-yoon's ward. Looking at Nayun and the guards who were running so hurriedly, Hajin was just silent while clenching his hands tightly. His mood looked a bit unusual at the moment, but, while he was standing there silently, someone suddenly approached him and called out to him. That person was Yona. Yona looked surprised when she saw him here. Seeing her, Hajin said that she arrived earlier than he expected. Yona explained, "Are you family? Attends every big event of the Chai family. I immediately came down from the mountain and took a helicopter to come here as soon as I heard the news. The others were a little late because of traffic." But, when Yona saw his face, she then confusedly asked him, "Why is your expression like that?" Hajin just shut up at her question. This was not something he could tell everyone. The reason why he had that expression was because according to the Book of Truth, the estimated time for the seed to sprout was around January. Now it was still October, so he thought he still had plenty of time, but he missed one thing. the possibility that Chai Jinyun's consciousness could recover before the seed sprouted. If Chai Jinyun was conscious, then, Hajin clenched his hands tightly when thinking about that conjecture. Seeing the cold sweat that filled Hajin's face, Yona worriedly asked if he was so worried. She then took out a handkerchief from her pocket and wiped the sweat off his face using it. She also told him that Chai Jinyun did not regain consciousness. There was just something that changed. To be honest, they said it was too soon to be called hopeful. It was nothing to worry about. Hearing that, Hajin then understood. He let out a sigh of relief hearing that Chai Jinyun did not regain consciousness. But, Yona continued, even so, this did not apply to Nayun. Even the smallest signs made her unable to remain calm. Yona knew that he was the one who gave Nayun a ride to get here. She thanked him for being considerate to her. She then handed him the handkerchief and asked him to keep it. While taking the handkerchief, Hajin thanked her. After that, he then said he would leave first. Yona was then surprised to see him suddenly leaving, and without seeing Nayun, Hajin paused for a moment hearing her confusion. He then said that he just felt that he didn't belong here. Yona was stunned hearing his words. She could only stare confusedly at Hajin who was walking away. She really didn't understand the meaning of what he had said earlier. After parting with Hajin, Yona then immediately followed Nayun and headed towards Chai Jinyun's ward. After she walked for a while, she then saw Nayun who was standing in front of the door. When Nayun with a tired face stood waiting at the door, she was then surprised when someone walked over and called her, and when she saw the person, she then became very happy. She was very happy with Yona's arrival and immediately ran to hug her. After sitting on a nearby chair, Yona then asked about the situation, but Nayun said that she wasn't sure either. She just saw that the graph was fluctuating irregularly. This was different than usual. Nayun's face looked happy when telling her that. Seeing that, Yona also felt happy. She then asked, "This means a good sign, right?" Nayun confirmed that. She had heard of cases like this before, and most of them would wake up within 3 months. For now, they said that Big Brother needed peace, so they were expelled. Hearing that, Yona said that they just need to wait patiently. Nayun agreed, but her body was trembling because of the excitement she felt. It felt like her heart was about to explode. She also couldn't stem her tears anymore at this time. The wait that she had been waiting for would finally be realized. Nayun felt a little embarrassed for Yona for suddenly crying like this in front of her. Seeing her situation, Yona then became worried. Nayun asked, "Am I weird? I should feel happy. This is good news, so I should be smiling. But, strangely, I can't stop shedding tears." Yona just kept quiet while comforting her best friend silently, because she realized that if she said that she knew what she was feeling, it would be a lie. She had never lost a loved one in a tragic accident, but Nayun had been waiting for a family member who had no hope of regaining consciousness, for 5 long years. For so many years, anger turned into sorrow, grief into despair, despair into acceptance, and in the end, she started to learn to give up, and just as he started to give up, suddenly a glimmer of hope appeared, something like that. How could she understand such pain? So, Yona decided to just comfort Nayun silently for now. Shortly after that, Soho and others finally arrived there. The two of them were certainly surprised by their arrival. They were also surprised when they saw Sung-ah also came. But, Nayun then realized something. Seeing that there was no figure of Hajin, Nayun confusedly asked, "Where is Hajin? He was the one who brought me here." Hearing her question, Yona replied that Hajin had already left. Nayun was then confused to hear that. She then confusedly asked why, but Yona did not know about it. She told her not to ask her. Yona was also confused at this time. For someone who was very worried about Nayun, she thought that Hajin would wait a little longer. She was also a little confused and did not understand the expression on his face earlier. Meanwhile, Hajin is now somewhere with his motorcycle. He was not running, but he was out of breath and his head felt heavy. He felt he might be too tense for a moment, but Hajin was then surprised by a sudden notification sound from his smartwatch. It was a message containing, "Apprentice, I made a new ID for you since it seemed like it would take a while for you to join the Violet Banquet. Try logging it." Hajin's face looked tired at the moment. When he read the message, he wondered if this was from the boss. In the message, the boss also told him that the previous mission's reward, an item worth 300 million won, would be transferred to his Violet Banquet account. She also gave him the account login code. After reading the message, Hajin's mind then drifted back to Chai Jinyun's case. Today he was lucky that Chai Jinyun didn't wake up, but, next time, he might really wake up. The one who is comatose in the hospital ward. and the one who wanders around with full consciousness. Even a fool knows who is easier to kill. The news about Chai Jin-yoon really has an impact on him. When Ha-jin looked back at his smartwatch, the boss messaged him again and asked when he planned to take the next mission. Meanwhile, in an abandoned building, it was the building that became the headquarters of the Chameleon Troop. The person who messaged Ha-jin was indeed the boss. She was currently sitting there while waiting for a reply to her message. Shortly after that, she finally got a message back from Ha-jin. At any time, Ha-jin realized that this path was the only grip he could hold on to. A few days later, at the Creators Sacred Grace Guild headquarters, the secretary then came to Yun Sung-ah's office and congratulated her on reaching global rank 250. Yun Sung-ah just smiled slightly at that. She then thanked him. She felt that time passed so quickly and it was already October. She asked him if there was any news lately. The secretary pondered for a moment, suffering from her question. He then said, "Come to think of it, there was a rumor that said that Geronimo accepted a new mercenary." Yun Sung-ah was surprised and happy to hear the news. She felt this was good news. Their Jin extermination team always welcomed reinforcements like them. She then asked about the new member's skills. Hearing that, the secretary immediately answered, "Assassination and sniping." Yun Sung-ah was not surprised to hear that answer. When it comes to Geronimo, he is definitely a person who is an expert in that field. She asked if there was any information about his identity, but unfortunately, the secretary replied that there was none. Even their informants had only heard vague rumors. There was not much information they could provide. Hearing that, Yun Sung-ah found it interesting. After thinking for a while, the secretary continued, "The only information they could gather was the codename he used. If not mistaken, he called himself Demonic Wolf." Meanwhile, at Cube Dormitory, right after Ha-jin finished bathing, he then once again read the message that the boss sent to him. The boss in the message said that the reward on his last mission, item worth 300 million won, had been sent to his Violet Banquet account. The boss gave his login code and username in that message. Although he had read the message many times, but the code name still made him feel unusual. It sounded great. When it comes to Demonic Wolf, the first thing that comes to people's minds is definitely the wolf monster in Nordic mythology, Fenrir. As far as he knows, the official classification name is Demonic Wolf. Right when he read the message and learned that his code name is Demonic Wolf, Ha-jin confusedly asked the boss through the message, "Isn't that name too much for me to use?" But the boss replied no. She even felt that it suited him. His sharp eyes matched the name. Ha-jin only felt that her answer did not make sense at all, because Ha-jin realized that his eyes did not resemble a wolf at all. Instead, they were more inclined to a round shape. But, when Ha-jin could only feel confused about it, he then heard Evangel calling him. After Ha-jin put on clothes, he then immediately met Evangel and asked her, "What's wrong?" With an enthusiastic face, Evangel then showed him something. It was a transparent wolf that looked like a hologram. Ha-jin was quite amazed to see it. He then immediately asked her what it was. He also praised Evangel for being able to make this kind of thing. While handing the wolf to him, Evangel said that this was a gift for him. Ha-jin was stunned for a moment hearing that. While pointing towards himself, Ha-jin then confusedly asked if this was for him. Evangel confirmed it. After that, Evangel then touched the back of the wolf's neck. Her touch seemed to activate something that made the wolf, who had been silent like a statue, suddenly move and make a howling motion. Ha-jin was then shocked to see the wolf suddenly come to life. But, his shock did not stop there. The wolf suddenly accelerated. Judging from its direction, it looked like it was going to pounce towards Ha-jin. Ha-jin was then shocked to see that. He was completely unprepared and could only helplessly watch the wolf pounce towards him. Ha-jin's body then fell to the floor due to the shock brought about by that. The environment was suddenly silent for a moment after that. Neither Evangel nor Ha-jin said a word, but fortunately the wolf seemed harmless and did not cause any injuries to him. Seeing Evangel, who held back her laughter until her body trembled, Ha-jin then realized that he had been pranked by her. He then immediately tickled her body because he was annoyed by her naughty behavior. Evangel's laughter broke out as a result of the tickle. She begged him to stop it. It was ticklish. After a while, after Ha-jin stopped the tickle, Evangel then could only wearily lay her body on the floor. She was tired from laughing too much. Evangel also said that she was not pranked. Her words made Ha-jin pay more attention to his body condition and finally felt something, and when he looked towards his chest, he was then shocked when he saw a wolf tattoo there. He was confused by what this was. Right at that moment, several system notifications then appeared. It turned out to be a buff from the wolf spirit. It was now lodged in his body and claimed him as its master. The buff has several effects. The first is Wolf's Aura, which increases his strength, endurance, agility, and vitality stat by 0.1. The second is Wolf's Instinct, which allows him to summon a large wolf that will protect him once he senses a deadly threat. And the last is Wolf's Movement, which reduces the sound of his footsteps. Hajin was stunned when he read that. He then recalled when Evangel handed over the wolf to him. She said at that time that this was a gift for him. Remembering that, Hajin wondered if she did this because she wanted to show her new abilities to him. Hajin was really touched by that. He then immediately hugged Evangel and said that she was really sweet. He also apologized to her for misunderstanding, but Hajin then could only feel confused because he didn't feel any reaction from Evangel after hugging her, and when he looked towards her, Evangel was already asleep. Seeing that, Hajin wondered if she had passed out because she was too tired. Hajin smiled slightly at that. He then hugged her little body and thanked her. After that, Hajin then took Evangel's little body to the bedroom and put it on the bed. He also did not forget to cover her body with a blanket, but Hajin then heard the sound of a cat meowing behind him, and when he looked back, it turned out to be Whitey. Seeing that cat, Hajin then asked her if she wanted to sleep near Evangel. Whitey meowed as a sign of confirmation of that. After stretching her body for a moment, Whitey then jumped into bed and slept next to Evangel. Hajin's heart somehow warmed when he saw that. They used to fight a lot, which made him worry whether he had made a mistake for bringing the two of them together, but when he saw the two of them so inseparable like now, his heart felt relieved. For the record, right after he returned from the Wind Mountains, probably because of his new hairstyle, Evangel always stayed away from him. He really missed her because he had not seen her for a long time, but she treated him like that. This made his heart hurt. That's what made Hajin go back to wearing his old hairstyle. But, when Hajin was thinking about that, he was then surprised when he heard a notification sound from the notebook. An item has been delivered, and when he saw the logo on the message, he then realized that it was from the Violet Banquet. He wondered if this was the mission reward that the boss said. He was also quite curious about what they sent, and right after Hajin pressed the accept button, the Violet Banquet logo on the message suddenly floated into the air, and like a small portal, an item then appeared from inside the logo. The item had a circular shape with a hole in the middle, and when Hajin identified it, he later learned that it was an item called Top Tier Under Armor. The item had several effects, such as physical enhancement, which increased his strength, endurance, vitality, and agility by 0.3, artifact effect that will activate when he consumes mana on the item, posture correction that can help him maintain an ideal body, underwater that allows him to breathe underwater, and haste that increases his defense. Hajin was amazed when he read these effects. Hajin then decided to wear it immediately. He attached the item to his chest and flowed his mana into it. After that, the item then stuck to his chest like a magnet. His mana also seemed to be overflowing at this time, a defense item that could emit and envelop his body with mana. Hajin realized that this item should be worth more than 300 million, at least up to 1 billion. Hajin was very happy to receive such a valuable reward. It was indeed the right decision to let the boss choose the gift. Right after that, he then received a message from the boss asking if he had gotten the item. While laughing happily, Hajin replied yes. He also thanked her, but Hajin's heart then calmed down when he read the next message sent by the boss. The boss said that his next mission has been decided. Meanwhile, at the nursing home where Fernan Jesus used to be, while the receptionist was sitting there bored, her attention was soon distracted when she saw someone running so hurriedly to get in there. That person was Tomer. She said that she was looking for a patient, although the receptionist was a little confused why she was in such a hurry, but she didn't mind it and immediately asked her about the name of the patient she wanted to see. Tomer caught her breath for a moment hearing that. She then replied, Benjamin Agus. She also described his appearance. He was Latin. His appearance does not look like his real age. Hearing that, the receptionist remembered for a moment. While the receptionist was remembering, Tomer then took out something from her pocket. It was a few photos of Benjamin Agus. The receptionist immediately remembered when she saw the photo. She said that he was a quiet person, but the receptionist suddenly showed a rather hesitant behavior. She then hesitantly said that he had passed away. It was about 2 years ago. Tomer was then shocked when she heard the news. This was the worst news for Tomer. Tomer clenched her hands tightly. She really couldn't believe this. The name and address of the facility where he was staying were exactly the same as what she got from the Truth Office. The Truth Office had told her that his father, Fernan Jesus, had died, but Tomer certainly didn't want to believe it and came here herself, but it turned out, the ridiculous story was indeed true. He ran away after throwing her life into a pit, he ended up here, lived comfortably, then died in peace. This was really an ending that Tomer could not accept at all. Tomer then asked the receptionist, "Do you have a will or any personal belongings?" The receptionist did not answer her question immediately. She said that first she had to ask for clarity about her and Benjamin's relationship. Hearing that, Tomer said, "His real name is Fernan Jesus, Benjamin Agus is just a pseudonym, and my name is Jamer Jesus." While gritting her teeth, Tomer also added, "He is my biological father." While handing her business card to the receptionist, Tomer continued, "I can vouch for my identity with my mage qualification ID." Hearing that, the receptionist said that she understood, but, she said that to be honest, she also didn't know much about him. She only interacted once with a student who came here for volunteer work. After saying that, the receptionist finally remembered, and said that the student also came here again recently. Maybe he knows something. Hearing that, Tomer immediately asked about the name of that student. Hearing that, the receptionist asked her to wait for a while, and immediately checked the history of recent visits, but, while Tomer was waiting, she then again received several messages from her colleague at the headquarters. Her colleague said that she had passed the time limit and told her to come back immediately. He also said that a disciplinary committee will be held in regards to this mission's delay. In a sarcastic tone he also congratulated her on her demotion. He laughed at her for failing even though she was very arrogant when she accepted this mission. Tomer was certainly upset to read these messages. She inwardly swore at them. She decided not to have a relationship with them anymore. After all, her goal was also almost complete, but fortunately, shortly after that, she then got good news. After a while of searching, the receptionist finally found the name of the student who was visiting at that time. The name of the student was Kim Hajin, a cadet from Cube. The shock in Tomer's heart could not be described in words when she heard the name. She even dropped her smartwatch because of her surprise. Tomer really did not expect that it was Kim Hajin. The figure of Hajin then appeared in her mind. She wondered if he was Kim Hajin that she knew. When Hajin was walking through the place near the girls' dormitory, she then saw a lot of scenes of people dating there. Hajin could only sigh helplessly at the sight and muttered, "The autumn leaves are beautiful. They must have put a lot of effort into landscaping to maintain appearances and the mana concentration, but ironically, this place has become the best dating spot in the academy that prohibits students from dating. If it's like this in the fall, he can already imagine how the scene will be when spring comes, where everything is blooming." But when Hajin was thinking about that, someone suddenly approached him and called him. Hajin instantly woke up from his reverie and immediately turned to the person. The person asked what he was thinking about. He didn't even hear her call. That person was Yona. While handing something to him, Yona asked him to take it. While opening something given by Yona, Hajin confusedly asked what this was. Hearing his confusion, Yona asked if he didn't remember. This was the wild ginseng he gave her that time. She had turned half of it into an elixir. Hajin was surprised to hear that, but, when he finally digested what she said earlier, he then shockingly asked if she only used half of it. Yona proudly said that they planned to use the rest for research and development. In return, they would compensate him with shares, and if everything went well, they would also give him additional elixir equivalent to the rest, so she told him not to worry. Hajin was a little speechless hearing that. She used it however she pleased, and she's so calm about it, but even so, Hajin didn't mind it too much, because he knew that Yona wasn't someone who would betray her allies. In fact, it was more likely that she was the one who would be betrayed. Right now, Yona tended to trust someone too much once she thought that they were her people. Hajin thought it was natural because she was only 17 years old. She was still inexperienced, but the guild's internal power struggles that she'll have to face are a filthy political battlefield. Now that he thought about it, that whole incident happened around winter break. It was the news about Yona's abuse of power scandal, but what Hajin didn't realize was, while he was deep in thought, Yona continued to talk to him at length, until she finally said that he could only take 1 pill a day. Hajin was certainly confused by her words because he didn't listen to the conversation at all. Yona said that what she meant was the elixir. After all, 1 pill costs 1 billion won. Hajin just agreed to hear that, but, when he finally digested her words, he was then shocked to learn that the price was 1 billion won per pill. Yona confirmed that they condensed the mana crystal and wild ginseng to make it. Hajin was completely dumbfounded to hear that exaggerated price. He confusedly asked if it was really that expensive. Seeing his shock, Yona with a big smile replied no. She added, But isn't that how marketing works? With the amount needed to make 20 doses of elixir, they can make 3 to 400 doses of other medicines, so if they don't sell it at that price, then they are the ones who will lose money. Hajin was really surprised to hear that. 20 pills, that means 20 billion won. Hajin then immediately identified the elixir Yona gave him and read the description. It was an elixir made by neutralizing the mana crystal solution with wild ginseng, featuring the most skilled and honed craft. Once consumed, the strength, vitality, endurance, and mana stat will permanently increase by 0.001 to 0.02 within 24 hours. For the record, the higher the user's stat the lower the effect. This elixir also has a side effect with a risk of chi deviation of 5%. The risk will increase sharply with the dose consumed within 24 hours. Hajin was a little surprised to read that. The stat boost was better than he expected. With a little adjustment to the setup, this could be quite useful. Thinking about that, Hajin thought that he should return the favor then. He then handed something to Yona and asked her to take it. Seeing that, Yona was certainly confused about what it was, and when she opened the thing, how surprised she was when she saw that it turned out to be a wild ginseng. Yona was amazed and did not expect that he actually got another one. Hajin did not know what to respond when he saw her amazed expression. He then just said that he got it from the Wind Mountain and did not explain it further to her. Yona was stunned to hear that. Seeing that, Hajin ignorantly asked her, then by principle, I guess I should return it to the owner of the Wind Mountain, Shin Jonghak, right? Yona was then surprised to hear that and immediately hid the wild ginseng. After hiding the wild ginseng into her bag, Yona said, now that I think about it, Jonghak once forgot my birthday, so I guess this will make up for that. Hajin laughed at that. He told her to do what she likes. After that, before parting, Yona then said that she would call him back if there was any progress. Hajin understood and thanked her, and Yona then walked away from there, and right before Hajin also left there, he then remembered something and opened his smartwatch. He recently got a message from Tomer. Tomer used a different ID number. So he asked her in the message if she changed Het's smartwatch, but, until now he hasn't gotten a reply message from Tomer. Judging from the situation, Hajin felt that she might have gone to the nursing home. He was sure that Tomer must be thinking about many things right now. Thinking about that, Hajin thought that he should give her time to sort out her thoughts. After Hajin arrived at the dormitory and opened his notebook, he then got a message from Geronimo Mercenary which contained his next mission. It was a mission with difficulty D and a reward of 400 million won or an equivalent item. In the mission summary, he was told to ambush a human trafficking truck run by a Jin group called Soul Reapers. Hajin was quite surprised to learn that his next mission was a hostage rescue mission and was located in China. He then made a plan. As soon as class ended tomorrow, he would use a portal that went directly to Beijing. In the background story he wrote, the region of Russia bordering Mongolia is a lawless zone. This is a smuggling and human trafficking route favored by Jin, and a besa chaos where rules are made by the strong and crime roams free. That lawless zone has its own rough order and society among the Jins, and now they call it the demon subduing palace or pandemonium. Time passed. After Hajin entered the portal leading to China and drove for a while, he then arrived at the Waigac Bridge, northern Beijing. Looking at the bridge from the top of the cliff, he then knew why people said that this place was a mid-level danger zone. This place gave him goosebumps. The Jin he would face today were those who willingly became slaves to the devil, driven purely by evil. Shortly after Hajin arrived at the place, he then got a message from the boss. The boss said that she had something she wanted to tell him before he started his mission. They have a lot of people, but what he needs to remember is, not all Jin are the same. Jin are creatures whose negative emotions are amplified through contract. And the weaker or lower the rank, the more likely they will commit evil without hesitation. That's because they express the inferiority they feel from comparing their ideal selves to their current circumstances through evil. Reading the message sent by the boss made Hajin realize that they were opponents who did not need to get his guilt when he killed them. While waiting for their arrival, Hajin muttered that he was not sure whether this was a good thing or not. Shortly after that, a group of cars and trucks then appeared on the road in front of him. Seeing that, Hajin realized that it was a group of Jin who would be his target today. He then immediately took out the Desert Eagle and turned it into a rifle form. Relying on the scope on the rifle, Hajin then took aim, and aimed at the driver of the first truck. After that, a loud sound of gunfire was then heard as a result of Hajin pulling the trigger. The bullet he fired shot so strong that it penetrated the back of the truck and made a hole in the path it was traveling. The other Jin were then surprised by the sudden change, seeing the truck that swerved and went off the track. They wondered what was going on there, but, while they were confused about what happened, Hajin's action would not stop there. He then immediately aimed at the next target, accompanied by the sound of gunfire. The truck driver's consciousness then disappeared when a bullet pierced his head, as a result of the death of the driver. The truck then lost control and crashed into a tree. Realizing something was wrong, the jinn then immediately got out of the car they were in. They were shocked and confused when they saw the two truck drivers who had died. They cursed and rushed to the truck to protect the luggage. Seeing the condition of the driver's death, one of the jinn wondered if this was the work of a sniper. Hearing his guess, a colleague immediately asked, from which direction, but, shortly after that, his guess was then confirmed. He was then shocked when he saw his colleague who was suddenly lying lifeless on the ground with a bullet through his head, and when they followed the trajectory of the bullet, they were finally able to see the sniper. Seeing Hajin who was just standing there alone, they then immediately ran towards him in order to catch him. Hajin did not panic at all seeing the siege of the jinn. He then threw something that looked like a pill into his mouth. It was an elixir that could temporarily increase his strength. For 5 minutes, all his stat variables, except mana, increased by 1.5. It didn't stop there. Hajin then used the item the boss gave him. Under armor haste, he attached the item to his chest like a magnet. After all the preparations were completed, Hajin then coated the rifle with ether, and activated bullet time. With his reaction speed drastically increased by bullet time, Hajin then fired 3 bullets at once and shot dead the 3 jinn in front of him. After a while after Hajin finally finished them all, he then walked towards one of the trucks. After opening the padlock that locked the truck's container door, Hajin thought that all that was left now was to free the hostages, but when Hajin felt that his mission was complete and opened the container door, a man with a knife in his hand suddenly appeared and seemed to be about to attack him. Hajin was then shocked at the sudden appearance of the man. He realized that he had been caught off guard at this time. And when the man's knife was about to stab his body, something inside his body then triggered. A large wolf then appeared and pounced towards the man who attacked him. The man's eyes widened in surprise when he saw it. After that, only the man's screams of pain and despair could be heard. Hajin was also surprised and did not expect that sudden change. Seeing the transparent wolf that had just finished off the man, Hajin wondered if it was the wolf spirit, whether it had just come out of his body. But, when he was confused, he then remembered something. He then realized that this was one of the effects of the buff that Evangel gave him at that time. Hajin did not expect that he would be caught off guard like this. He felt that he was inexperienced. He still had a long way to go. The sudden attack of the man was just a small episode. Hajin still hadn't forgotten his mission. He then walked to the container and opened the door. Seeing the hostages with trembling bodies and desperate looks in the container, Hajin then threw a smartwatch at them. With his heart filled with confusion, one of the hostages then picked up the smartwatch. Seeing that, Hajin told them that the jinn was dead. He also asked that they should be able to call reinforcements right. While extending his hand forward, Hajin then told them that they could go home now. After that, Hajin then told the boss that his mission was complete. The boss replied that she understood and told him to leave the rest to them. The boss was currently in a place that looked like a cave, and she was not alone there. While looking to the side, she then asked their opinions to the members of the chameleon troop gathered there about Hajin's performance earlier. Somewhat confused, Khalifa asked if it was okay if there were only 5 people who came when evaluating rookies like this. Honestly, he was more looking forward to the new headquarters. Jane was also helpless about it. After all, everyone had their own schedules. She was also quite surprised by Hajin's performance earlier. He only took 21 seconds to kill 20 people. She was confused how a rifle could be that strong. She felt that Hajin's talent was really impressive. She thought his talent was some kind of upgrading or modifying weapons with mana. She then asked their opinions regarding that. Hearing that, a man with long hair said that he thought he was at high intermediate rank or above. Jane was surprised to hear him rate Hajin that high, but she was then annoyed because she felt he didn't even understand what the concept of high intermediate level was like. 10 of them could still beat him. He chuckled at that. He also replied that it would take at least 100 of them to be able to fight him. Hearing their debate, Khalifa then asked Jane's opinion. Hearing that, Jane thought for a moment. She felt that Hajin might be in the mid-tier, in the same range as Kim Suho. She was not sure if it was one-on-one, but when fighting many people, he would be very useful. Feeling that their opinions varied, he said that this kind of evaluation should be more for Jungyang. He was very good at evaluating people. He also asked if he was still in Demon Realm. Drun replied yes, that pig looks like he has no intention of leaving that place." This made him wonder if he didn't feel bored being there. Hearing that, one of the members said he might come back once he was satisfied enough. Jane suddenly remembered something at this time. She then called Drun and asked him if he knew anything about what wolf it was. Hearing that, Drun thought for a moment. He then rather uncertainly said, maybe it was Kim Hajin's pet. Jane was rather speechless hearing his answer. Who would keep a pet in the chest? Seeing the confusion of the two of them, the boss then said that she would ask him directly, but Jane doubted whether Hajin would tell her about it. Hearing that, the boss told her not to worry, with a completely unconvincing face. The boss said that Kim Hajin trusted her completely. If she asked him, he would tell her, but Jane certainly did not believe her words. She knew very well about the boss's personality, but seeing her proud smile, she didn't say what was in her heart at the moment. After a while, after Hajin completed his mission, he then returned to the dormitory. After placing Evangel on her bed, while stroking her hair, Hajin told her that she had saved her today. At that time, when seeing a wolf suddenly appeared in his chest and remembered the buff that Evangel gave him, he then immediately checked the details of the wolf. The wolf is described as the first familiar created by the witch. Hajin was shocked to read that. Familiars are created when a witch splits her soul to create a doppelganger, but he was then even more surprised when he set his eyes on the stats and skills of the wolf. Hajin was dumbfounded when he saw the stat that was so exaggerated. With stats like that, this thing should be the one using the armor rather than him. After being surprised, Hajin then got a feeling that maybe someday this wolf would become a real demon wolf. But when Hajin was thinking about that, his attention was then distracted when he saw Evangel suddenly move. With a happy smile, with eyes still closed, Evangel called his name in her sleep. She asked if he brought her good food. Hearing that, Hajin then held her little body. He said yes, but he told her to sleep again and eat it later. Looking at Evangel who fell asleep again in his arms, Hajin had a strange yet warm feeling. This felt new to him, but he was not aware of how much comfort this child brought to him. It had only been a year since he arrived in this world, and when he finished the main story and finally returned to the real world, he wondered, would he be able to return to his old life, all the things he had experienced here, the people he had met, would he be able to forget everything? Hajin's heart was always filled with confusion and doubt when thinking about it. Time passed. With a sleepy face, Hajin then came to class. He took a short nap for an hour but became even more tired. His smartwatch was quiet these days. He still hadn't received any news from Tomer. After visiting the memorial park, he left something there to attract Tomer as an ally. Now, he felt that Fernand's meal must have been filled with the flowers he left, but because he still didn't get a message from her. This made her suspicious that Tomer hadn't found the letter. Seeing a cadet standing and walking haughtily, the professor who was teaching then immediately scolded her and told her to sit down. The cadet turned out to be Tomer. Hajin was then surprised when he saw her suddenly sitting next to him. After that, the professor then continued to explain the material he was teaching. As for Tomer herself, after she sat next to Hajin, she then wrote something and showed it to him. In the small note, Tomer asked him if he had ever volunteered or something like that. Hajin was silent for a moment reading that. He then answered her question in a small note too. He answered yes and asked why. Tomer again asked him if he ever met someone named Benjamin Agus at the nursing home. Hajin confirmed it. They were also quite close. Reading that, with some hesitation, Tomer then asked him about what kind of person Benjamin Agus was in his eyes. Reading that, in the middle of the professor explaining, Hajin looked quite confused in his writing when he read her question. He just said that he always looked lonely. Reading his answer, Tomer then continued to ask him questions. She asked about how he could become close to him. She heard that he never opened up to the nurses. Not once, Hajin replied. He thought, maybe because their situations were similar. He also had no family members. After writing his answer, Hajin also silently thought that Tomer should have known about it, because he was sure she must have checked his background. After that, Hajin then wrote on a small note and asked her why she asked that. Tomer's face suddenly became gloomy when she read the question. But, she then answered that he was her biological father. Hajin really did not expect it. He was surprised that Tomer actually told him that. Seeing his shocked expression, Tomer asked if he was surprised, and she was too. She didn't expect to meet someone who knew him here. But, Tomer then angrily told him that that bastard had killed her mother and just ran away from her. She wanted to know why he killed his wife and threw away his own child, but it seemed that he was dead. Everyone in the nursing home said that they didn't know anything, so she could only ask him, did he leave anything? Reading her writing, Ha-jin then realized that Tomer had not read the letter at all. This really confused him. Could there be something going on in the nursing home? Because actually, he didn't throw Tomer away. After that, with mixed thoughts, Tomer then asked him where the letter was now. Reading her question, Ha-jin then immediately wrote the answer on her little note. It was in Seoho Memorial Park. Tomer was surprised when she read the answer. After a while, the professor then said the closing words for today's class. He also reminded them not to forget to study for their final exam. After the class finally ended, Tomer then stood up and called him. She said that today she would leave Cube. She also said that she would return all the money she had lent, so she told him not to worry. Ha-jin sighed for a moment hearing that. He muttered that he was not worried about it from the beginning. Looking at Tomer who walked away, Ha-jin was sure that she would realize it herself. Feeling that all the problems have finally been resolved, Ha-jin then stretched his body. He thought it seemed like everything went smoothly. He could finally feel relieved and rest comfortably this week. But, someone suddenly walked up to him and patted his back hard at this time. She also cheerfully called him. It was Nayun. The pat was so strong that it left an imprint on his back. While feeling a little painful, Ha-jin then confusedly asked her, "What's wrong?" With a bright smile, Nayun asked him, "You didn't forget about our plan tomorrow, right?" Ha-jin could only feel confused hearing that, but Nayun didn't explain it to him and told him not to be late. After telling him that, Nayun then walked away from there. Ha-jin could only stare blankly at her departure. He was really confused and didn't understand what she meant. So, Ha-jin then confusedly asked her, "What promise?" Seeing his confusion, Nayun annoyedly asked if he forgot. Soho, who was beside Nayun, then reminded him. At that time they said that they would eat together. Hearing that, Ha-jin finally remembered. Nayun at that time said that she was really grateful, so she would treat him to food. Once the practical exam was over, she asked if he wanted to go to that place. But after remembering that, Ha-jin then confusedly asked if it wasn't just the two of them who were planning to eat together. Nayun was even more confused when she heard his question because she had previously said that they would all go together. In the midst of Ha-jin's confusion, Yona then walked up to them. She said that she was also there at that time. They agreed to go as former travel group members. Did he not remember? Hearing that, Ha-jin said that he really did not remember that. He also confusedly asked her since when she was included. Yona just smiled a little at that. She told him not to be like that. She said that they would go to karaoke later too. Seeing Ha-jin's reluctant face, Nayun then realized that Ha-jin didn't want to come. So, when Ha-jin was about to decline their invitation and said that he would be busy that day, Nayun suddenly rubbed his head, which stunned him. He really didn't understand why she did that. Nayun laughed at his reaction. With a somewhat pleading face, Nayun said that he had to come on that day, otherwise she would put him in the group chat. Ha-jin could only be silent hearing that, until finally, he then sighed helplessly and accepted the invitation. Meanwhile, inside the Seoho Memorial Park, with hurried steps, Tomer was seen looking for something there. She was really confused at the moment. She was completely confused as to where her father's grave that Ha-jin had told her was located. She was told that the goods was in Zone 17 Line 1 Column 4, but the place had a lot of shelves that made her confused and looking for it, until finally, she then reached a shelf and saw a familiar name there, Bergman Argus. There is the place where her father left his heirloom. But Tomer was then confused when she saw a lot of flowers there, and when she picked one of the flowers, she then saw a note and learned that the flower was sent by Ha-jin. It made her wonder if he had come here over the years since that person died. The flowers were preserved with magic that made none of the leaves wither. Buried peacefully in a comfortable place like this, it was the funeral her father got after his death. Tomer, who hated her father very much, was certainly very angry about that fact. The memory of her father killing her mother and running off to abandon her was still fresh in her mind. When the anger in Tomer's heart peaked, she then opened the door of the shelf and threw all the flowers that were there to the ground. Tomer couldn't help but question herself at this time. All this time, what did I do all this for? Tomer felt that the hatred and revenge she had been fighting for had ended in vain. This really made her feel lost. But, she then remembered that her father left a letter, and when she opened the letter and read it, how surprised she was. Fernan wrote the letter in the last days of his life. In the opening of the letter, with feelings of longing and guilt, he gently called her. He said that his heart felt chaotic when he wrote this letter. Part of his heart hoped that she would never read it, but the other part hoped that she would read it. He could only imagine what she would feel when she read this letter. He knew there were no words that could heal her pain. But, letting her live wondering for the rest of her life was not what a father should do. After telling her his heart, he then told her a fact that made Tomer hold the letter tightly. His wife and her mother had sold her soul to the jinn. A very distant memory then appeared in Tomer's mind. It was a memory when he was a child and her family was still complete. Her father at that time approached her and called her with a worried face. Tomer was very happy when she saw him. She said that her mother would take her to the amusement park. Her father was surprised to hear that. With a worried tone, he then invited Tomer to go home first. Tomer was then confused by it and asked why. Her father said that he and her mother had something to talk about. Her mother looked at her father with a gloomy look when she heard that. She seemed to know what he was going to talk about. When they got home, her father then immediately scolded her mother. He asked her if she was out of her mind. Fernan was very angry because his wife really said she would hand over their child to jinn, but his wife felt there was nothing wrong with that. Fernan could only feel shocked and confused by his wife's attitude. His wife said, if it means that it can make herself stronger, she will do worse things than this. She also said that Tomer will definitely understand it someday. Fernan was really shocked and did not understand. When he heard his wife's words, he felt that she was really crazy. Seeing Fernan, who was silent, his wife then told him to step aside if he was finished talking. She told him not to waste her time. She then called Tomer and invited her to leave. Hearing that, a very strong rejection then appeared in Fernan's heart. He didn't want his daughter to leave, so, with an unclear mind, Fernan then pushed his wife, kicked her, and beat her to death. It all happened in an instant that even surprised himself. Right after that, he was then surprised when he saw Tomer, who went downstairs and called her mother. Seeing his father there, Tomer then confusedly asked where his mother was. Fernan's mind was really mixed up at that moment. He realized, if people knew that his wife turned into a jinn, then Tomer would also not be safe. She will be involved too, so, he then immediately approached Tomer and held both of her shoulders tightly. He told her to listen to him carefully and asked her to go out for help. Tomer could only feel confused by her father's request, somewhat stammering. Her father said that he hit her mother. Tomer could no longer hold back her tears when she read that part in the letter. In the letter, Fernan said that she wanted her to have a stable life in Korea, so he gave everything he had to his friend and asked his friend to take care of her. But many years later, when he returned to Korea, he could not find her back. He had looked everywhere, but he could not find her or his friend. Tomer held the letter tightly until she almost tore it when she read it. Her hands were shaking because of the shock that was in her heart at this time. The actual facts turned out to be the opposite of what she had always believed. She even did not want to accept reality and thought his father was lying. When Tomer was about to tear up the letter because she didn't want to believe what her father told her, a memory when she was a child suddenly flashed in her mind. That day was her father's birthday. While handing him a watch, little Tomer then wished him a happy birthday. Fernan was very happy with her little daughter's gift. He thanked her. Tomer asked if he liked it. She chose the same color as the brooch he gave her for her birthday. After remembering that, Tomer then took out a watch and a broken brooch. It was the watch she gave her father that time and the brooch that her father gave her on her birthday. She still kept it even though it was now a little damaged. When night fell with the moon high in the sky, after Hajin escorted Evangel to her bed, he then said goodnight to her. Evangel also waved her hand and said goodbye, but, right after Hajin closed the door of the Evangel's room, he was then surprised when his smartwatch suddenly rang, and when he opened the smartwatch, he then smiled. It turned out to be a thank you message from Tomer. Hajin felt like she made it there safely. After he received the message, Tomer then disappeared completely. She said she would return his money by any means, and the mana oath agreement was also still intact, so it wasn't that they wouldn't have contact, but even without all that, he had a feeling that someday, Tomer would be a partner he could rely on. Time flies so fast. Before you know it, we have arrived at the day when Nayun and the others ate together at the restaurant. Looking at the various dishes displayed on the table, Hajin looks happy. This is much more amazing than he expected. Hearing that, Nayun said that this place is indeed good. She also told him that he could expect more. Hajin felt confused when he heard her words. He felt that her aura felt different. With a cheerful tone, Nayun felt that gathering together like this reminded her of the time when they were in Gwangmyeong. Her skills improved drastically back then through training. After returning, she was on an undefeated streak. Yonghan grinned when he heard that. He then asked her didn't she lose to Rachel. Nayun then got upset when she heard that. She said that it was a draw. In the middle of their argument, Jonghak suddenly called Kim Suho, and when Suho confusedly turned to him, Jonghak asked if he had prepared well for the final exams. Hearing that, Suho said more or less so and asked how about him. With a proud grin, Jonghak asked if he had seen him practicing for the exam. They are different, since birth, they already have differences in bloodlines. He whose life is filled with effort and hard work will never understand that. Suho could only laugh awkwardly when he heard that, while Hajin himself felt quite surprised when he saw the interaction between the two of them. The two of them are being friendlier to each other than he expected. If this was in the original story, the situation would be much more tense. It feels like this situation is completely out of canon, but, when Hajin swallowed the meat he had cut, he immediately forgot all his worries. The combination of the meat and the marinade made the food taste really delicious. The meat melted as soon as it hit his tongue. He really enjoyed the dish and finished it immediately, but he was then surprised when he saw someone who gave him another piece of meat. It was Nayun. Nayun winked one of her eyes and invited him to enjoy the meat again. Hajin was speechless when he saw that. He felt that there was something different from Nayun. She was not like usual. He wondered if this was because he gave her a time capsule. However, if that was not the reason, a conjecture then appeared in Hajin's mind when thinking about it. Could it be that she's developed feelings for me? Hajin was a little stunned when it came to that conjecture, realizing that Hajin was looking at her. Nayun then confusedly looked back at him. She confusedly asked what was wrong. Did he want to order more food? Hajin immediately woke up from his reverie when he heard her question. He replied no and said that it was enough. But, even though he said so, Nayun suddenly called the waiter and ordered more food for him. Hajin felt helpless when he saw that. He said that he was full, but Nayun still ordered more food. She asked the waiter to add 2 more meats to their table. While seeing her behavior, Hajin felt that his guess was impossible. He felt that Nayun might just thank him for giving her a time capsule. After eating at the restaurant, they then went to a karaoke place and sang a few songs. Their activities while at karaoke were broadcast live by Shin Jonghak on his social media account. Shin Jonghak's fans were very enthusiastic when watching their live broadcast. They praised them for their singing skills. And when it was Hajin's turn to sing, the fans' enthusiasm suddenly surged. They were very amazed by his voice and singing ability. They even felt that he was better than most singer. After Hajin finished his singing, Nayun was seen sitting there daydreaming. Seeing that, Yona wondered if she was still thinking about the song performed by Hajin earlier. Yona also felt that Hajin's singing was really good earlier, but a notification sound suddenly sounded from her smartwatch at this time. And when she opened the messenger, someone had sent her a message asking her to come outside for a while. The messenger said he had something to talk about. After Yona got out of the room, the sound of the music in the room suddenly sounded faint. The person who sent her the message earlier turned out to be Hajin. Hajin with slang in English then greeted her. "Hey buddy." Yona was silent for a moment when she heard that. She confusedly asked him why he suddenly used English. Hajin asked if she didn't know. Buddy means teammate. Hearing that, Yona said of course she knew that. She then told him to stop joking and say what he wanted to say to her. Hajin chuckled when he heard her impatient tone. While handing an envelope to her, Hajin said that he wanted her to make bullets for him. After receiving the envelope, Yona confusedly asked what this was. Hajin did not immediately explain it to her. He told her to grind what was in the envelope and put it in the bullet. He asked if she could do it. Hearing his question, Yona proudly asked him if he was seriously asking her that. They used the latest mana compression engineering that made them able to put mana even into bullets smaller than a little finger. There was nothing they couldn't make. But when Yona finally opened the envelope, she then became confused, because the contents inside the envelope turned out to be leaves. With a flat face, Yona said that she knew he wouldn't tell her what this was about even if she asked. Hajin chuckled when he heard that. She really knew him. While keeping the envelope containing the leaves, Yona said that she understood. She would take care of it. Hearing that, Hajin thanked her. He also asked her one more time, could she tell the others that he was going home first? Yona was then surprised to hear that Hajin was going home. With a bitter face, Hajin explained. Since he sang, Shin Jonghak had been looking at him with a terrible look. Yona was a bit speechless when she heard that. She felt like Shin Jonghak's competitive spirit had been ignited again. After that, Hajin then said goodbye to her and see you next time. Yona understood and told him to take care, but when Yona was about to go back inside, her smartwatch suddenly rang, and when she opened her smartwatch, it was her information guild member who had sent her a message. He said that there was something important that she should know. When they was investigating Kim Hajin, they found something suspicious. Yona was then surprised when she read the message. The guild member continued, the year that Kim Hajin was born, there was an incident called the Gwangho crisis. For some reason, all the records related to the incident had been completely hidden. Hearing the word Guango crisis, Yona somehow felt that the word sounded familiar. Her guild member said that in their investigation related to the incident, one of their informants was attacked. Yona was then surprised and worried when reading that. She immediately asked if he was alright. Her guild member replied yes. Fortunately he was able to recover without any major obstacles. Yona let out a sigh of relief and gratitude when reading that. She then immediately told him to collect all his findings so far. She also told him to stop their investigation for now. The safety of their informant was more important than the intelligence. Reading that, her guild member said that he understood. After that, Yona then continued to ponder on the word Guango. Somehow the word sounded familiar in her mind, until finally, she then remembered something related to it. After she recalled, she thought she had seen something like that in her father's old journal. At that time, she couldn't read Chinese characters so she couldn't understand the content. Her father scolded her severely for reading his journal, so it stuck clearly in her memory. If Hajin was indeed connected to the incident, Yona felt that maybe this time, she could return the favor properly, as a real teammate, and since her father was now out of town for work, now was her chance to check the journal again. But, when Yona was about to go back inside, she suddenly met Nayan coming out. She was then surprised and confused to see that. She then asked her why she was outside. Nayan replied that it was because the two of them did not come in. But, Nayan could not finish her words, and embarrassedly looked back to avoid Yona's gaze. Hearing her words, Yona then told her that Hajin had left. Nayan was shocked when she heard that. She then immediately asked her a series of questions. Why? What had they talked about? Where did he go? Did he go home? Did he tell her about it? Yona was a little surprised at her reaction, but she then couldn't hold back her laughter anymore. She then laughed teasingly at her. Nayan then blushed in the face of it. She confusedly asked why she was laughing so. Yona said that she was really adorable. She was very bad at hiding her feelings. Nayan could only blush and feel confused about what she meant. After finishing hanging out with her friends and passing the tiring day, Yona then went straight back to her house. Right before she went inside, she then saw the butler who was opening the gate. Yona then greeted him. The butler looked very happy when he saw her. Yona was also happy when she saw him again. He then asked how she was doing. The two of them had not seen each other for a while because Yona had not been back home for a long time. The butler regretted that neither her father nor mother were home right now. Hearing that, Yona said that it was okay. She asked him not to worry about it. She said that she came just to check something, a book that was in her father's study. When Yona walked into her father's study, she felt a little nostalgic. It had been a long time since she last went in there. If she didn't remember wrongly, the journal was under the desk. After Yona walked closer to the desk, she then picked up the transparent cloth that covered under the desk. But, she was then surprised when she saw that the safe had a password. This was different from what she remembered. Yona felt a little disappointed when she saw that, but, she then thought of something. If it was her father, she then tried to crack the password by inputting her birthday, but it didn't work. But Yona did not give up and tried again by inputting her mother's birthday, but unfortunately it failed too. After that, Yona stopped for a moment and thought hard in cracking the password. If it wasn't those two things, then there was only one answer. After thinking about it, Yona then entered a series of numbers into the safe, and sure enough her guess was correct and the safe finally managed to open. Yona was then happy to see that. She was not only happy because the safe finally managed to open but also because her father apparently set the password for the safe using her and her mother's birthday. After that, Yona then took the book inside the safe. It was exactly the book she was looking for, at that time. Right after Yona ordered her guild members to collect all the information related to Kim Hajin that they had collected, her guild members then informed her again. He said that they had collected all the information about Kim Hajin. In their investigation, they found a fact that after the Guango crisis occurred, Kim Hajin was placed in an orphanage near the Guango shelter. Yona smiled happily when she read that. She felt that she was getting closer to the truth. She also felt that she had not remembered wrongly. She had seen the word Guango before. After that, Yona then flipped through the book to look for information related to the Guango incident, until finally, she found it. In the book it was written that the note was written on September 9, 2008, with trembling hands and teeth biting his lower lip, which showed the strong emotional turmoil that the writer was currently experiencing. He wrote, "Today, a report about Guango incident was filed. I don't think I'll ever forget what happened that day in Guango for the rest of my life." Yona was stunned and stared in disbelief as she read the journal written by her father. Meanwhile, inside Hajin's dormitory, Evangel and Whitey were enthusiastically watching a television show. Hajin was speechless when he saw that. They were completely focused. He understood if it was Evangel, but what confused him was that Whitey was also enthusiastically watching the show as if she understood. Putting that aside, Hajin felt that this cat did look quite intelligent, but he then thought of something and immediately took out Homer's ring. The ring had the effect of increasing the user's intelligence by 0.001 every 24 hours with a maximum increase of 0.365. If he thought about it again, there was no rule that said that only humans could use it. After thinking of the idea, Hajin decided to try it. He then modified a little description of the ring's effect and added that if the user was not human, their intelligence would increase by 0.01 every 12 hours with a maximum increase of 0.365. The modification required 40 SP. Hajin felt that the transaction was not bad. Now it only took about 18 days to reach the limit, but Hajin did not stop experimenting until there. He then modified the ring effect and added, only for the first user, the speed of intelligence development was doubled. But, modifying the effect turned out to require as much as 250 SP, it was quite expensive for him. He could only chuckle at that. He felt that the system meant that humans and animals were not at the same level, but, his attention was soon distracted. When he saw Evangel, who was enthusiastically watching the television show with Whitey, they seemed to get along very well now, which was completely different from the first time they met. Hajin couldn't help but smile when he saw that. He then didn't hesitate anymore and immediately invested his SP. He probably wouldn't get any profit from this, but he hoped that this would help Evangel. He wanted to see how smart she could be. After thinking about it, Hajin then inserted Homer's ring into Whitey's tail. Meanwhile, with dark clouds covering the sky, inside the Yu family residence, inside the family head study, Yona with trembling hands kept flipping through her father's journal, her eyes sharpened as if she couldn't believe what she was reading. With a trembling tone she wondered, what the hell is this? In the journal it was written, and after hiring an assassin, he assigned me to plan the whole operation. Yona was really confused about what her father meant when he read that sentence. And the more she read the journal, the more she couldn't believe what she read. In the journal, her father mentioned one name, Jin Young-hwan. Her father also made a brief introduction about him. He is an honest person who is trusted by others and a person who always fought against injustice. But President Kim Suk-ho, who saw Jin Young-hwan as a thorn in his side, labeled him as a Jin spy. His father speculated that maybe he was just afraid that his corruption would be exposed, but leaving that aside, the real problem was the fact that Chai Juchul also wanted Jin Young-hwan dead, so, he agreed with the claim that he was a Jin, and to avoid suspicion of assassination, he ordered the complete eradication of those who followed him. Then he hired an assassin and put me in charge of executing the massacre. On the day of September 8, an urgent radio message came from Jin Young-hwan. He informed about the presence of monsters and asked for reinforcements, but since that monster incident was something I fabricated, I ordered them to prioritize civilian rescue, and prove them straight into the jaws of death. Jin Young-hwan and his comrades tried to protect the citizens at the Gwango shelter, but around 8 p.m., an assassin infiltrated the shelter, and they were all slaughtered. Yona's heart seemed to stop at this moment. She was really shocked by what she read. She really could not believe what she read at this moment. Her father, who loved her so much, had caused the massacre. But her father's journal didn't stop there. She then found content in the journal that related to what she was looking for. The very next day, I received a report that one of Jin Young-hwan's subordinates had been with his heavily pregnant wife. Yona was stunned when she read that. A conjecture then came to her mind. She then immediately turned the book to go to the next page. She consoled herself that there was no evidence that they were Hajin's parents, but, her hopes were then dashed when she read the next content in the journal. There was one shocking fact in the report. Traces of childbirth were found at the shelter, but the body of a newborn was nowhere to be found. Yona was silent after reading that. She then recalled the report that her information guild member reported to her, right after the Gwango incident, registered at an orphanage near the Gwango shelter, and as Yona continued to read the journal, the worry in her heart then peaked. When I questioned the assassin Chai Ju-cheol had hired, he said he didn't kill the baby but he abandoned it, but that child was originally fated to die that day, so, I set out to find that infant, to kill it with my own hands. The shock and worry that was in Yona's heart could not be described by words when she read that. It never occurred to her before that she would find a terrible secret like this when going to read her father's journal. Meanwhile, when Hajin was looking at the togetherness of Evangel and Whitey, His attention was then distracted when he heard the sound of a message notification. The message turned out to be from the travel club, which informed the schedule of the club's next activity. The sender of the message informed that they would go to the regional festival in Busan on next Saturday. He asked the members to confirm their participation in the activity through the message. Hajin's thoughts were somewhat mixed when reading the message. To be honest, he was not too happy, because every time the travel club went somewhere, there must be something that happened. Hajin could only sigh helplessly. It was created to make writing the story easier, so it can't be helped. After thinking about it, Hajin then replied that he would join, but he suddenly thought of something. If the activity started on Saturday, then he then called Evangel and asked her if she wanted to hang out next Friday. Evangel was then happy with his invitation. She then enthusiastically asked where. Hajin also smiled when he saw Evangel, who was so happy. He said that they were going to the Busan festival. He thought that day he would be free. He promised her that it would be fun. While Hajin and Evangel were happily planning their picnic schedule, on the other hand, Yona continued to read the journal written by her father. But at that moment, I suddenly remembered my daughter, who was born in April. A mysterious being who couldn't do anything on her own but made me happy just by existing. My daughter, Yona. In the end, I intentionally left out the report about that baby. Even so, that fact remains that I abandoned that child to his death, and killed his parents. I've already lived a life full of cowardice, and a little more filth won't change anything. Still, the fact that I'm leaving this in my journal, is it the last shred of my conscience, or just a coward's way of comforting himself, or if not, could it be lingering resentment toward Chai Jukiel? I can't tell the difference. Yona was silent for a moment after reading that. She could feel her father's self-doubt from his writing. Her hand was weakening at the moment, which made her drop the journal. She was also full of self-doubt at the moment. She wondered if they could really be good teammates. That guy once risked his life for her. But Yona suddenly remembered when Hajin called her buddy. At that time he said that buddy means teammate. Yona was stunned when she recalled that moment. Hajin had considered her as a teammate. Yona's body couldn't help but tremble when she realized that. She was full of self-doubt at the moment, which made her unable to think clearly. Her father's journal had brought such a tremendous impact to her, until finally, only a cry filled with pain came out of her mouth. Premier Luxury Hotel Busan. Inside Yanhua Hall, Hajin, Evangel and Whitey were seen relaxing there. Time quickly passed, and before we knew it, it was Friday. Evangel and Whitey were seen looking through the photos they had taken all day. As soon as class ended, they went straight to Busan and enjoyed the festival there. They made a lot of good memories there and captured them in photos. In one of the photos, Evangel was seen enjoying her food with a cute expression. Hajin laughed every time she saw the photo. He felt that this was the best photo he took. The suite room where they were currently staying was usually quite difficult to book even if they had the money to pay for it. But who would have thought? He turned out to be quite lucky because someone suddenly cancelled his reservation at the last minute. The high luck stat really came in handy at times like this. By being in a room on the top floor like this, he could enjoy the beautiful view of the city at night with a better view. But when Hajin was enjoying the city view, he then saw someone walking in the crowd on the street. At first glance there was nothing strange about the person, but for some reason, the person gave him a strange impression. But, when Hajin was watching the person using the eagle eye, he was then surprised when he saw the person suddenly turn his head towards him. It was certainly a strange thing, because the room where he was currently located was on the top floor and had a great distance from the street where the man was standing, and when Hajin was stunned by the man's sudden gaze, he was then surprised again when he saw the man smiling at him. If earlier it might just be a coincidence, this time Hajin realized that the man was indeed looking at him. He was surprised that the man was able to see him from such a distance. He was completely confused and did not know what to do, until finally, he could only smile wryly. He was confused by what this uncomfortable feeling was. Although he wanted to refuse to believe, but his writer's instinct was screaming at him, an otherworldly being like Kim Suho, a villain who was molded by a sense of loss from losing their home, but shaped by countless betrayals, into the complete opposite of Kim Suho, a growth-type final boss. But, seeing the person's friendly smile and seeing him who waved his hand to him, he then became confused and doubtful. That smile is way too easygoing. That's not how he was originally portrayed. His image totally different, unless the co-author went and messed with things again. But, when Hajin was thinking about it, the girl who was beside the man then turned her gaze toward him. the girl looked very angry and annoyed when looking at him. Hajin could only feel confused and surprised by it. He was confused why she issued such a big killing intent, when he didn't do anything, but he was then stunned when he heard the man calling the girl's name, Sayek. That one word really shocked him and made him realize a very shocking fact. He could only curse at the co-author. He felt that this was really too much. She was a person who had a personality, ideology, and beliefs that were the opposite of Kim Suho, but just because all aspects of her were the opposite of Kim Suho, wasn't it too much if she also changed her gender? She felt that the co-author was really out of his mind for doing this. For the record, the girl's name was Jin Sayek. Hajin was still a bit shocked by the gender change she experienced. As he continued to observe the two of them, he then heard the man beside Sayek ask her opinion regarding the person who had met them earlier. The person they were referring to was of course Hajin. With an annoyed face, Jin Sayek then looked back up at Hajin. She replied that she didn't feel anything special from him. Jin Sayek had a growth potential comparable to Kim Suho or even greater. She was destined to become the biggest threat in the final arc, if only now. He had a bullet formulated with mestiltine leaves in it. Without hesitation he would spend all his SP just to get her off the stage. He really did not expect that they would appear now, especially when he was alone, but, when Hajin continued to observe them, Jin Sayek looked very upset. After knowing that the girl was Jin Sayek, a question then appeared in Hajin's mind. Then, who is this man? Hearing that Sahayan underestimated Hajin, the man then told her to practice her observation skills. While looking up, towards the building where Hajin was, he then explained it to her. From such a high altitude, he could see them clearly and had the guts to stare at her. That alone made it clear that he was not an ordinary person. After explaining that to her, he then asked her to stop glaring. Did they want to start a fight here? Jin Sayek then felt annoyed when she heard that, because she felt that Hajin was the one who glared at her first. Hearing that reason, the man mischievously said that he might have fallen under her charm. He then told her to try to wink at him. Hearing that, with a cruel grin, Sayek asked, "What about the death wink? Might as well attack him with magic." Hajin was speechless when he heard their conversation. He felt that that idiot was really crazy. Feeling that Sayek really wanted to start a fight, the man immediately told her to stop talking and invited her to leave there. Sayek annoyedly told the man to stop pushing her. Just as they were about to leave, the man then turned to Hajin once again and smiled at him. Hajin just watched their departure silently while drinking a glass of water. After the two of them finally disappeared from his sight, he then limply squatted on the ground. He felt that it was really tense, although it was a relief to be able to identify Jin Sayek, but he was confused about the identity of the man beside her. Why was he on the same level as her? In fact, the man seemed to be on the level above her. In the original story, Jin Sayek never had a partner, she only had subordinates. When Hajin was thinking about that, Evangel suddenly walked up to him. She asked if she could swim with Whitey. Hearing that, Hajin somewhat hesitantly allowed it. He confusedly asked if she could swim. Evangel happily answered yes. She also said that Whitey could also swim. Seeing Evangel who gave a kind of buff to herself, Hajin couldn't help but think that magic really made everything easier. When Evangel and Whitey were having fun in the swimming pool, Hajin confusedly thought, with the storyline that has deviated so far, does the original story still mean any more? But Hajin realized that thinking alone would not solve his doubts. In the future he would face Jin Sayek anyway, so he decided to think about it slowly. The next day, after preparing various needs, Hajin then went to a place and waited there. Shortly after that, the president of the traveling club, Oh Han-hyun, and several members of the travel club then came after him. Oh Han-hyun was quite surprised to see him come so early. He then approached him and greeted him. "You came early, Hajin." Hajin awkwardly scratched the back of his head when he heard that. After having a vacation, they went straight back to Seoul on Saturday morning, but they did not go to the cube, but went to the apartment they arranged in Seocho. When putting Evangel there, Hajin told her to consider this place as their second home. Evangel looked amazed when she heard that. He was a little uneasy about leaving Evangel in a strange place alone, but with Whitey there, he felt that it should be fine. Right before he left, Evangel cheerfully waved her hand and said goodbye to him. From the way she smiled, Hajin felt that yesterday's vacation was really meaningful. Shortly after Oh Han-hyun arrived, Kim Suho and others then arrived too. Suho was also quite surprised and confused when he saw Hajin come so early. Hajin felt a little awkward and embarrassed to face such questions. He then just said that he was looking forward to it, but, when Oh Han-hyun read the list of members who joined, he then saw that there was one member who was not present. Hearing that, Nayun then came to him and told him that Yona was not feeling well today. She said she would catch up later. Hajin was then surprised when he heard the news. He then confusedly asked Suho about it. Suho confirmed it. She even got hospitalized. Hearing that, Yonghan felt that she might have gastritis from stress or something. She is sensitive to some foods. Nayun confirmed it. She stayed up all night taking care of her. She did look strange in the past week. She had asked her if there was a problem, but she didn't want to say it. Yonghan was also confused when he heard that. Hearing that Yona was acting strange in the past week, Hajin then remembered that he hadn't seen her at all in this week. He never thought that she was sick, but, when they were worried about Yona, Nayun then said that she was better now. The nurses said that she could join them in club activities. Hajin was relieved to hear that. He then put away his worries. He felt that Yona's stomach ache might be due to eating too many snacks. After all, she really liked it. She might have a stomach ache from eating weird food. Right after they entered the portal, the scenery in front of them then changed drastically from the busy city scenery to the beautiful scenery of the ocean. They also looked amazed when they saw it. Oh Han-hyun then announced that their activity today was a street tour. Busan was filled with many shops, clothing stores, souvenir store, weapon stores, antique stores, and others. This was his hometown, so he asked them to stay with him. Hearing that, Hajin then thought of going to the antique store. With his high luck stat, he felt that maybe he would find a rare item. But, when Hajin was thinking about it, someone suddenly came and put a hat on his head. Hajin was then surprised by her actions. That person was of course Nayun. Nayun felt that the hat fit him perfectly, so she decided to buy it. Hearing that, Hajin immediately refused. He said that he really didn't need this. Seeing Hajin who took off the hat, Nayun then felt sullen. She asked him not to take off the hat. She had already paid for it. Hearing that, Hajin's gaze then fell on the price tag of the hat, but he was then shocked when he saw that the price of the hat was very expensive. He was confused why the price of the hat could be this expensive, until finally, maybe he felt bad because she bought it for him. Hajin decided to wear the hat, but Nayun didn't just buy him that. She then stopped by the ice cream shop nearby and bought him one, with a Busan dialect. Nayun then invited him to eat this, but, when Hajin mocked her speaking style and told her not to use that dialect, Nayun suddenly forcibly put the ice cream in his mouth. Hajin could only be silent with her behavior. Seeing Nayun who only held the ice cream, Hajin then asked why she didn't eat it. Nayun said that eating street food always made her stomach hurt, so she would give it all to him. Nayun smiled cheerfully when she said that. Seeing her smile, Hajin wondered if her good mood was because Chai Jinyun's condition was getting better. But, another guest then came to mind. When Hajin was thinking about it, Nayun then pulled his hand and took him around. This made him wonder, was it okay if he was so close to her like this? The friendlier they become, it would only make Nayun feel more betrayed and hurt. That's why he always wanted to keep his distance from her, so, he was confused why they ended up being like this. Hajin felt that he really had to keep his distance from her from now on, so, he then asked Nayun to wait for a while, but, Hajin was then stunned when Nayun suddenly took a scarf and put it around his neck. Even though he was thinking of keeping the distance, when seeing Nayun being so kind to him, a dark and cowardly thought suddenly grew in him. After putting Hajin the green scarf, Nayun felt that he really matched any color. Such a selfish thought. As long as no one found out, as long as it remained a secret, it wasn't a bad thing if they stayed close, right? That was what Hajin was thinking right now. After complimenting Hajin that he looked good in any color, Nayun then grinned. She said that maybe her fashion sense was amazing. Nayun laughed happily when thinking that, but, she was then surprised when Hajin suddenly threw the scarf at her. Hajin told her to stop bringing these random things to him. He didn't need them. Nayun looked a bit disappointed when she heard that. She brought him a scarf not without reason. It was because the weather was getting colder these days. But, she was then shocked and confused when she saw Hajin suddenly running as if running away from there. Time passed and night fell. Their last destination for today was an amusement park, a place that should be filled with dreams and fantasy, but ironically became a hot spot for smuggler transactions. All the traveling club members were there now. Suho asked Nayun if she dared to ride the scary rides. Hearing that, Nayun boldly said yes. Hajin quietly observed the interaction between the two of them while thinking about the upcoming events. According to the original story, the deal will go south, the smugglers will cause a scene, and while the protagonists were taking care of the chaos, Jin Sayek would approach Kim Suho. While they were thinking about what attraction they would ride, Na-yun then looked at her smartwatch. Yona sent her a message earlier saying that she would arrive soon. Shortly after that, she then saw a car that stopped not far from there. It was Yona's car. With a slightly pale face, Yona then got out of the car. When Yona walked towards them, Na-yun then asked her if she was feeling better. Facing her question, Yona vaguely confirmed it. Seeing all the members had gathered, Oh Han-hyun then asked them all to line up. He was going to hand out the bracelets. As they lined up, Ha-jin coincidentally stood beside Yona. Seeing Yona, who looked discouraged as if worrying about something, Ha-jin then asked her if she was still not feeling well, but Yona just said that she was fine and did not explain further to him. Ha-jin was certainly not convinced by that because she saw Yona's face that still looked pale. He felt that Yona might have food poisoning. After all the members received the bracelets, Oh Han-hyun then announced that they would move in pairs, and just when Ha-jin had just received the bracelet and put it on his wrist, he was then surprised when Yona suddenly pulled his hand and told him to come with her. Na-yun, who had been watching the two of them, was then shocked when she saw that. She then immediately asked Yona what she was doing. Ha-jin was also as confused as her. He was confused why Yona suddenly became like this. She looked very serious. He wondered if there was something she wanted to talk to him in private. After walking for a while, Yona then invited him to get on the Ferris wheel. The Ferris wheel continued to spin along with the silence that surrounded the two of them. They just sat there facing each other. Without saying a word, this made Ha-jin a bit confused as to what Yona wanted to do. They had already spent time around the amusement park, and she hadn't said a word to him. She just kept looking at him, sighing again and again, and suddenly she invited him to ride the Ferris wheel. Ha-jin looked confused when he heard her invitation at that moment. Ha-jin realized that she brought him here not for a date, so he then asked her, "What is this about?" His question immediately woke Yona, who had been silent. Ha-jin continued to ask, "Did the production of the bullet he asked for encountered some issues?" Yona replied no, that should still be done by next month, but she then hesitantly asked him about the leaves he gave her that time. Hearing that, Ha-jin said that it was not an ordinary leaf, as she had guessed. If the production process still left some leaves, she could use them for research materials if she wanted. Yona rather confusedly asked about it. When hearing that, Ha-jin said that he had to make this pharmaceutical project a success. After all, they were teammates. Yona gasped when hearing Ha-jin say that. Her body suddenly trembled and sweat dripped from her face. Those words seemed to remind her of her father's journal that she had read, but, after Ha-jin thought about it for a moment, he then realized that he was more like an investor in the pharmaceutical business she built. When Ha-jin was thinking about it, Yona suddenly called him. She said that there was something she wanted to tell him. Ha-jin could only feel confused seeing her anxious expression. He then confusedly asked her to just say it, but, before Yona could even tell him anything, a sudden shock appeared to hit the Ferris wheel where they were currently. The support pole seemed to have suffered some damage which made the Ferris wheel now stop rotating. Sensing that, Ha-jin then immediately looked out the window. There, he saw Soho, who was facing a woman. The woman was Jin Sayek. The environment where the two of them were currently looking rather messy, which indicated that the two of them had clashed from a while ago. In a rather dismissive tone, Sayek said to Soho that he was a fairly famous person around here, so it was easy for her to find him in an instant. Jin Sayek's purpose for being here from the beginning seemed to be to find Kim Soho. Seeing her, Soho looked very surprised. He asked her what she was doing here. Jin Sayek smirked slightly at his question. She didn't expect Soho to recognize her, but she then felt that it was natural. There were only two of them at that time. If he didn't recognize her, then he would just be an idiot. With a sharp gaze directed at him, Jin Sayek asked him if he was curious how she came to be here. Did he really thought he was the only special one that day in that situation? That's absolutely ridiculous. Soho's face became gloomy when he heard her confirmation. With a somewhat different attitude than usual, Soho then told her to say what her purpose was here. Na-yun was a little surprised when she saw his attitude. This was the first time she had seen Kim Soho this angry. This made her wonder, who is this person? Hearing his question, Jin Sayek said that it was none of his business. More importantly, she asked if he had forgotten how to speak with manners. No matter how much the world changed, he must not forget their past. Hearing that, in a tone mixed with anger, Soho asked her, "Do you think you have the right to say that, after all this time?" Faced with his question, Jin Sayek grinned again. "I always have the right. You've become insolent, you lowly thing. I'll teach you a lesson." Hearing the conversation between the two of them, Na-yun then became annoyed at being ignored. She said that she couldn't just stand by and listen to this nonsense. She didn't know what was going on between the two of them. But for someone as good as Kim Suho to react like this, she was pretty sure that she was the piece of trash here. Jin Sayek was silent for a moment at her words, and when Nayeon told her to leave immediately, before she and Suho could even react, Jin Sayek suddenly brutally attacked her. After being dazed for a moment, Suho then woke up, seeing Nayeon who was thrown so far and fell behind him. The shock in his heart could not be described by words at this time. He then worriedly called out to Nayeon, but unfortunately, Nayeon didn't give any reaction when he called out to her. Repeatedly, Jin Sayek looked angry at this time. She seemed to be very offended by what Nayeon said earlier. Seeing Suho who was worried about Nayeon and was about to turn around to approach her, Jin Sayek, in a tone mixed with anger asked him, "Do you dare to turn your body around?" Right after she said that, a pitch-black aura then appeared around her. The aura then solidified which formed into various weapons. Suho's eyes widened in surprise when he saw the scene, with a threatening attitude. Jin Sayek felt that he didn't seem to care about his life, and Ha-jin who had been watching them was also surprised. He could only curse. He knew that Jin Sayek was very strong, but he didn't expect that she could defeat Nayeon with one hit. This was really something he didn't expect. Realizing that the situation had become bad, Ha-jin then apologized to Yona and said that they should postpone this conversation first. After saying that, without explaining further to her, Ha-jin then forcefully broke the door of the Ferris while they were riding, but he was currently at a considerable distance from the ground. It was a headache to get to the bottom, and when Ha-jin said to Yona that he was going to go down, he was then confused, because Yona suddenly firmly held his hand. With trembling hands, Yona said that she didn't think she could, with tears about to fall from her eyes. She felt that she wouldn't be able to say it if it was later. Ha-jin could only feel surprised to hear that. He was really curious what exactly happened to make Yona become like this, but he suddenly remembered something. He wondered if it was time for Yona's abuse of power scandal arc. If it was, then no wonder she got stress gastritis. She must have been carrying a heavy burden, and when Ha-jin thought about that, Yona was then surprised when Ha-jin suddenly let go of her hand that was holding him, just before dropping down. Ha-jin then told her that she didn't need to say it then. Yona could no longer stem her tears when she heard that. She then immediately ran forward and tried to reach Ha-jin, but unfortunately he couldn't reach him. Ha-jin still continued to look at her while smiling faintly. Ha-jin inwardly thought that it was okay, even if Yona didn't say it, he would still help her, so whatever it was that made her worry, it'll be fine in the end. Yona could only cry loudly inside the Ferris wheel while watching Ha-jin who was free-falling in the air. After Ha-jin landed on the ground, he then immediately ran fast, heading towards Nayeon who was currently lying on the ground. Seeing Nayeon who was desperately trying to stand up, Ha-jin then worriedly called her. When he finally arrived and checked on Nayeon's condition, he was then relieved that Nayeon's injuries were not that severe. Even so, she suffered some internal injuries, so he thought of taking her into hiding first. He then tried to wake her up, and when Nayeon opened her eyes, she was then confused when she saw him in front of her. Seeing that, Ha-jin then took out a potion, and forcefully gulped it into Nayeon's mouth. It made it difficult for Nayeon to breathe and coughed. Seeing that, Ha-jin explained to her, when potions heal internal injuries, they hurt a little, you'll feel better soon. And when Suho worriedly looked at Nayeon, Jin Sayek then warned him to just ignore them. Hearing that, with a little anger, Suho asked her why she changed so much. Sayek's eyes did not fluctuate when she heard his question. While staring at him, Jin Sayek then said that she had told him before not to look down on her. After saying that, Jin Sayek then sent a threatening look at him and manipulated the various floating weapons that she summoned. Seeing that, Suho then took the broken pipe that was behind him to prepare for her attack, and when the various weapons that Jin Sayek manipulated flew at him, Suho then forcefully swung the pipe in his hand to fend off the attack. After successfully fending off all the weapons Jin Sayek manipulated to attack him, Suho then asked her if she really had to do this. They no longer had any reason to fight each other. Hearing that, Jin Sayek said that it was not something he could decide. Putting it aside, with an arrogant grin on her face, Jin Sahayan asked him if he thought it would be enough. After saying it, she then formed several more weapons and manipulated them to attack towards Suho. Seeing the attack she launched, Suho then swiftly slashed the pipe in his hand to fend off the attack. But, the attack this time was not that easy to block. There was one weapon that escaped his slash which made Suho have no choice but to move to avoid it. Ha-jin was horrified when he saw it. Ha-jin couldn't help but admit that Sayek was truly a very strong person. The dark blue mana energy that enveloped the weapons themselves was a natural opponent for Kim Suho, That means, she didn't even need to use weapons to fight, because the very dense mana itself was her weapon. When Jin Sayek continued to manipulate the weapons to attack Suho and Suho who tried to block the weapon she threw using the pipe in his hand then showed signs of being destroyed after many times trying to block her attack. Hajin could only curse at the sight of it. He regretted that Kim Suho was not carrying Miss Stiltine at this time. After the pipe he used to block Jin Sayek's attack was destroyed, Suho then looked in horror at Sayek's attack which was no longer unstoppable. Sayek grinned viciously when she saw it. She then manipulated her weapon and launched an attack on Kim Suho's stomach. Not stopping there, she then manipulated her mana to attack Kim Suho from various directions, and ended it by launching a powerful attack that made Suho fall hard to the ground. Seeing Suho who had fallen and was helpless, Hajin then felt anxious. He realized that if this continued then something bad would happen. After thinking about it, he then quickly ran towards them, and when Jin Sayek slowly walked towards Suho, and was about to manipulate her mana to finish him off, Hajin quickly ran forward, and immediately protected Kim Suho behind him. He also asked Jin Sayek, "Isn't that enough?" Sayek then felt annoyed by his arrival and the question he asked, but, when she saw his face, she then remembered that he was the one yesterday. Hajin froze in fear hearing Sayek recognize him. Sayek then asked if he was their teacher or something. Hajin was stunned at his question, and when he was about to say no, Sayek suddenly attacked both sides of him using weapons she summoned. Hajin could only feel surprised by her attack. It was really too sudden and too fast to make him unable to react, but fortunately Sayek deliberately did not aim at him. But, seeing Sayek about to launch another attack on him, Hajin then felt horrified. He realized that he would not be so lucky now, and when the spear that Sayek had thrown quickly flew towards him, Hajin then activated bullet time and moved evasively, and when the spear that Sayek had thrown had finally hit the wall behind him, Hajin's eyes then widened in fear when he saw the destructive impact it had produced. Sayek was surprised and amazed to see him able to dodge her attacks quite well, even though Hajin was able to avoid the attack quite well. In fact his heart almost fell out, because if he had avoided it even a little, the consequences would have been fatal for him. He then asked Sayek to stop this all. None of them were carrying weapons. Wouldn't this be enough? But, before Hajin finished his words, Sayek suddenly cut off his words and confusedly asked him if he really wasn't their teacher. Hajin was speechless at her words. He then replied no, and told her that he was their friend. He also asked her what made her think that he was a teacher. Sayek was surprised and upset when she heard his answer. If so, she then told him to leave immediately, unless he also wanted to die. Seeing her attitude, Hajin then realized that Sayek did not seem to want to retreat no matter what. He could only think of one way at this time. Jin Sayek had an arrogant and reckless personality, therefore, he would provoke her. Hajin then took out a coin and coated it with mana. Sayek then felt annoyed when she saw it. She felt humiliated. He had said that he did not carry a weapon, so why did he take it out? Sayek felt that this was really silly and made her very upset. Hajin smiled faintly at her annoyance. He then focused his stigma's mana effect on the coin, and absorbed the mana released by the ginseng elixir into it. Not stopping there, he then strengthened the coin's power with the random enhancement system, and he was lucky enough to get an increase of 40%, after all the preparations were completed. Hajin then with all his might threw the coin towards Jin Sayek. Jin Sayek could only be stunned by his attack. After the coin managed to hit her and fell to the ground, Jin Sayek then incredulously touched her forehead which was now bleeding. It was a wound arising from Hajin's coin toss earlier. Jin Sayek was really very angry at this time. She had never experienced humiliation like this before. Hajin could only break into a cold sweat when he saw that, even after using all his strength, he still couldn't defeat her. But, he didn't mind that. This was what he had expected. It didn't deviate from his plan, because he had managed to provoke her, and when the angry Jin Sayek was about to manipulate her mana to attack him, someone suddenly firmly held her hand to stop her. That person was the man who was beside Jin Sayek at that time. The man said to her that it was enough. Sayek was then upset to see the man suddenly holding her hand to stop her. She told him to let her go immediately. She also assured that she was fine. The man could only sigh helplessly. Watching her behavior, he then told her that her brain had been messed up. She could not even control her mana properly. After saying that, before Jin Sayek had time to react, the man suddenly hit the back of her neck. It made Jin Sayek instantly lose her consciousness. After catching Jin Sayek's unconscious body, he then laughed awkwardly at Hajin and said that she was always troublesome. He also asked him, we've met before, right? Hajin was stunned for a moment to face his question, then confirmed it. With a slight smile, the man thanked him. Because of him, he might not be caught off guard next time. After saying those words, the man then left there with Jin Sayek, who was unconscious, leaving Hajin and Suho, who were stunned there. After the man left and disappeared from his sight, Hajin's body suddenly relaxed, which made him fall to the ground. Suho was then surprised when he saw it. A shocking thing kept appearing before him today. It made Hajin could only sigh helplessly. Even though he had disappeared from Hajin's sight, in fact, the man didn't immediately leave. He stood on top of a building and watched the chaos caused by Jin Sayek. He also thought about Hajin and his skill in handling the situation earlier. He was impressed by him. In such a short time, he could analyze Sayek's personality. He even realized that she had issues controlling her magical power when provoked. The man smiled faintly while thinking about it. He felt that this was truly interesting. But, when the man was about to leave, a man suddenly appeared behind him asking where he was going, and when he looked at the man, he immediately knew it was Jane in disguise. Jane wasn't surprised that he recognized her. She then greeted him. "It's been a while, old man." Hearing that, the man felt a bit nostalgic. It had indeed been a while since they last met, but, seeing Jane alone there, he then asked Het. "It seems the kid isn't here." Jane's eyes narrowed upon hearing that. She then said that she would die if she brought her here. She knew the boss couldn't defeat him. She came here just to see how he was doing now. But, Jane then clenched her fist tightly, looking at Jin Sayek unconscious on his shoulder. She said, "It seems you found a new kid." Hearing that, the man smiled softly while looking at Sayek. He confirmed her words. She was his disciple, but for a disciple, she was very special, and very eager to kill him. But, more importantly, the man then looked back at her and exposed her disguise. Jane was shocked by his sudden action. The man said, "Looks like you've got some confidence now, or maybe you've just stopped being a coward." Jane could only pout about it. She then said to him, "Wasn't it you who said those who have someone to protect can't act recklessly? Even if I can't defeat you, I can at least kill that unconscious girl." The man only smiled faintly upon hearing that. He didn't deny it, because it was indeed true. So, he then bid him farewell and said he was glad to meet him again after so long. Jane was stunned to hear that he was about to leave. She then told him something. The new black found by the boss, the wolf hired just to kill him, the demonic wolf, he's here. Hearing that nickname, the man then realized it referred to one of the creatures in Norse mythology, Fenrir, the creature that swallowed the king of the gods. But, if he wanted to reenact that myth, he would have to work hard, because the possibility of it happening surely existed. Hajin didn't know that he was being discussed by Jane and the mysterious man who was Jin Sayek's master. He himself was currently helping the injured Suho by giving him a potion. When Suho received the potion and drank it, Hajin then sat beside him while thinking about what was happening there. The police and heroes detained all the smugglers who caused the chaos in Dizran land. A smuggler caused chaos in Dizran land due to a failed negotiation. Something like that might be published tomorrow. Jin Sayek wasn't caught, and Chai Nayan was safely moved to the hospital. As for Kim Suho, Hajin then asked him if he had drunk the potion. Suho confirmed it and thanked him. He also promised to pay him back later, but Hajin said that wasn't necessary. With a face as if he knew nothing, he then asked Suho if he knew about the woman from earlier. Hearing his question, Suho with an awkward laugh said he only knew a little, but Hajin questioned that. Hearing his disbelief, Suho was silent for a moment as if he was contemplating something, and as if he had made a decision. Suho then called him and was about to tell him the truth, and when Hajin quietly waited for his confession, Suho suddenly changed his mind and told him to forget it. Hajin was stunned by that, but he decided not to dwell on it too much. He didn't know what he wanted to say, but he asked him not to blame himself too much. Hearing that, Suho gave a hollow laugh as if to show him that it was fine. He also said it wasn't that serious, but Hajin, who knew Kim Suho's entire background, certainly wouldn't believe his words. He then ruffled Suho's hair to show his annoyance with him. Suho was shocked by his sudden action, until finally, Hajin stopped after feeling satisfied. With a confused face, Suho then asked him what he was doing, but Hajin didn't answer or explain it to him. He then said goodbye to him. Suho was shocked to hear that. With a still confused face, Suho then looked at Hajin's back as he walked away, but for some reason, Hajin's action earlier improved his mood. Hajin realized that Suho might be lost in his thoughts after seeing Jin Sayek, who came from another world like him. Here, someone who felt loss after losing their home, that kind of loneliness, it was an emotion Hajin was also feeling now. But, Kim Suho didn't even hold the slightest hope that he could return, that's why. It was only natural that he couldn't just sit still and watch Kim Suho suffer like that. Time passed, and the tense incident finally passed. In a room at the top of a building with a view overlooking the entire city, Yona was standing there while recalling Hajin's words to her back then. Hajin said she didn't need to tell him. Yona felt disappointed about it. In the end, she couldn't say it, but, when Yona was muttering about it, Nayun suddenly appeared behind her and asked what she couldn't say. Yona said it was nothing. Seeing Nayun back to being energetic, she then asked if her injuries were okay. Nayun confirmed it. They said the first aid was very good. She felt it was natural since she drank a full dose of potion back then. She also felt she should send a message to Hajin and thank him. But, Yona suddenly sank into her thoughts upon hearing that. Nayun respected her grandfather. That was something she had known for a long time. But Nayun's grandfather, Chai Jukyil, was a sinner comparable to her father. Even though he probably showed a gentle side to his granddaughter, that would only increase Nayun's feeling of betrayal. This was what made her hesitate about whether she should tell Nayun about Kim Hajin's past here, that the person who killed Kim Hajin's parents, erased all traces of his family from his life, and forced him to live in extreme conditions, was the grandfather she greatly respected. Yona truly felt conflicted now, until finally, as if deciding something, she then called Nayun, who was currently sending a message to Hajin. Nayun could only feel confused by her call and the serious expression on her face. But, Yona suddenly fell silent as if hesitating, and Nayun could only stay silent while waiting for the words to come out of her mouth. But, Yona suddenly patted her shoulder and only said, "Good luck." Nayun was stunned by that. She truly felt confused by her. Yona explained, "Good luck with your message. You always hesitate a lot when you're about to send it to Hajin." Nayun blushed at her teasing, but Yona suddenly showed a sad expression. But Nayun, standing behind her, couldn't see it. Yona told her to listen to her so she wouldn't regret it in the future. After saying that, Yona then walked away from there with a face almost in tears. Time passed. When the sun was high in the sky, at Hajin's dorm, Hajin had just returned after buying Evangel a box of fried chicken, after taking 2 pieces of fried chicken from the box. Evangel then gave one to Whitey. Whitey looked very happy about it. Hajin couldn't hold back a smile seeing their bond. They used to always fight. He was relieved because Evangel seemed to finally learn to share. After watching them for a while, Hajin then turned his attention back to the system. Thanks to last night's incident, he gained quite a lot of SP. Seeing that amount, Hajin felt it was time to create another setting he wanted, and when Hajin was confused about what setting to create, he then remembered that he had thought about this before. He then told Evangel that he was going to work on something and asked her to sit and eat quietly. Hearing that, Evangel replied that she understood. Hajin then went to the place where he usually kept things and searched for some files there, until finally, he found it. It was a file containing an idea for a setting he wanted to create, doping setting, when consuming drugs. This setting would make his body remember some of the potion's effects depending on the luck stat. He wrote this idea because he felt he would use a lot of doping in the future, the ability to either remember a drug's effect or recreate it in his body. Besides that, he also wanted that when he used doping, the effect would be stronger and last longer. After having the idea, Hajin then immediately wrote down the setting he wanted to create, but, he was then shocked because the setting would cost 1000 SP, although he felt a bit bitter about it. Hajin had somewhat expected that a permanent stat boost would be expensive. Even so, he felt it was worth the price. So, he then confirmed it, and the system then saved the setting he created. During the setting creation process, his luck stat was triggered, and the drug remembering body constitution effect increased overall. The setting had 3 effects. The first was memorize. When consuming drugs with the same effect and properties, the body would remember some of the effect, depending on the luck stat. The second effect was recreate. Drugs that had been memorized could be automatically recreated and released in the body, depending on the luck stat. The last effect was adapt strengthen, strengthening the drug's effect as it was recreated and consumed more, depending on the luck stat. Hajin felt satisfied reading those effects. He then decided to try it immediately and swallowed the ginseng elixir given by Yona. Right after swallowing the elixir, a system notification appeared. Drug consumption slowly increases strength. stamina, vitality, and magical power. Your body remembers 4% stat increase from wild ginseng. Reading that number, Hajin thought, so if I drink about 25 of them, my body will produce free elixirs. He felt it wasn't bad, but, shortly after, he suddenly felt an intense pain. The pain came so suddenly that Hajin wasn't prepared and fell from his chair. He was truly shocked by it. He then looked at the stigma mark on his wrist. The stigma mark looked like it was being triggered. He had indeed suspected this, but what he didn't expect was the intensity of the pain. While Hajin was enduring the pain surging from within his body, Evangel, hearing the commotion, then asked him what that sound was. Hearing that, Hajin then answered that it was nothing, he just dropped something. Hearing that, Evangel said she understood. She then took Whitey to leave and warned her not to disturb Hajin. Hajin felt relieved about it, but the pain hadn't stopped yet. He endured the pain silently. He realized he couldn't scream, because Evangel was in the living room. Screaming would only make her worry, so he decided to endure it no matter what. After who knows how long, Hajin finally opened his eyes, still lying stiffly on the floor. His face looked shocked at the moment. Seeing the sunlight coming from outside, Hajin then realized he had fainted until morning, but he then felt something. Evangel and Whitey were there too, sleeping beside him, in a half-conscious state. Evangel reminded him that he could get sick if he suddenly slept on the floor. Hajin couldn't hold back his smile when he heard that. He also felt guilty for making them worry. Meanwhile, at Café Carrot, Soho and the others were gathered there. Seeing Soho sending a message to someone while hiding it, Nayun with a mischievous grin then asked him, "Why are you hiding your screen like that? You must be texting Sungha, right?" Soho immediately panicked upon hearing that and quickly denied her assumption. He said they were just chatting, nothing serious, but, hearing that only made Nayun want to tease him more. She asked, "Isn't that actually weird, a cadet casually talking privately with a guild vice leader?" Soho stammered upon hearing her words. He panicked as if his secret had been exposed and didn't know how to respond. Soho then only said it wasn't what she thought. Nayun couldn't hold back her laughter seeing his expression. She also said she didn't believe him. Hearing their conversation, Yona annoyedly told them to be quiet. Couldn't they focus a little? But Nayun ignored it. She casually said that today's study session was over, they just needed to decide on the travel date. Yona could only sigh upon hearing that, but she also felt Nayun's words made sense. They did need to discuss it. She had Yusihyuk's camp until the end of March, so they needed to set the date earlier. She suggested deciding the date as soon as possible and asked how about next week. But Soho said he couldn't make it. He had plans with Hajin. Yona understood. But, unlike Yona's reaction, Nayun looked very shocked upon hearing Soho had plans with Hajin. She immediately asked, "What kind of plans?" Hearing her question, Soho recalled the message Hajin sent him back then. Hajin said he found a dungeon and invited him to raid it together, and Soho happily accepted his invitation. Without explaining in detail, Soho then told them that he and Hajin would be going somewhere. Yona was slightly surprised upon hearing that. While Nayun herself imagined a scene of Hajin and Soho riding together, Soho said he always wanted to ride a motorcycle. Hearing that, Nayun's mood suddenly dropped. Unlike her, Yona continued talking with Soho without any change. Yona realized that Soho and Hajin shared the same hobby. She also didn't blame him for not being able to go next week. They could pick another day. Hearing that, Soho said he should be free on other days. But, unbeknownst to both of them, Nayun suddenly lowered her head while clenching her fists. Time passed, and night arrived. In a dense forest, Hajin walked there while through the bushes, until, finally, he reached the appointment place. Seeing an old building in front of him, he wondered if this was the meeting spot. With some hesitation, he then slightly raised his voice and politely asked if anyone was there, but, he was then startled, because the spirit Evangel gave him suddenly activated and lunged in a certain direction. The spirit attacked a monster that looked like a giant bat. Hajin was shocked upon seeing the monster. He recognized it. It was a flying nightmare, a 6th grade monster. He was stunned by the sudden appearance of such a powerful monster. On the other hand, he was relieved because if it weren't for the spirit wolf, he would have been in big trouble. This incident really made him wonder why she was asked to meet in a place like this. Just as Hajin was puzzled by the reason, the door of the old building in front of him suddenly opened, and the boss came out while greeting him. After that, they both went inside and sat down. While showing a screen, the boss then asked him, "Which condition still doesn't suit you?" Hajin fell silent for a moment facing her question. He then said he liked the conditions, but that only added to the boss's confusion. because Hajin still hadn't accepted her offer until today. She then asked him, "Then what's the issue?" She would revise the contract to a certain extent. Hajin replied, "There was one important request that couldn't be written in a contract." Hearing that, the boss told him to say it. Hajin fell silent for a moment. Upon hearing that, he gripped his thigh tightly as if gathering resolve, until finally, Hajin stated his condition. He wanted her to help him kill someone. The boss only stayed silent upon hearing his request. His face didn't change at all even when faced with such a request. The person Hajin meant was of course Chai Jin-yoon. He had investigated ways to kill him alone, but he concluded it was impossible. The VIP ward wasn't a place he could easily enter, especially Chai Jin-yoon's room, which was under nearly impenetrable security. Even if he could get in, he would surely be caught immediately and his identity would be exposed. There were some companions he had grown close to almost without realizing, and for now, he still wanted to be with them. Hearing his request, the boss then asked to confirm. Hajin didn't respond. He only took out an envelope and handed it to her. After receiving the envelope, the boss opened it and read its contents, but his mood couldn't remain calm. When reading the documents inside the envelope, while throwing the envelope away, the boss then asked about his reason. The boss's reaction was understandable, because the contents of the envelope Hajin gave her were photos of Chai Jin-yoon. He was the one Hajin wanted to kill. Hajin only stayed silent facing his question while looking at the photos of Chai Jin-yoon holding a young Nayeon scattered on the ground. Hajin then looked back at her. He said he would do the killing himself. He just wanted her to help create the opportunity. Even so, the boss was still hesitant. Hajin never thought of asking the boss to do the killing, because he knew from the start she wouldn't help with that, and amidst the silence enveloping them both, Hajin then looked at her directly and called her boss. The boss's eyes widened in shock at his call, because Hajin had never once called her boss before. Time passed, and we entered another day. Seeing all the cadets gathered, Kim Soo-hyuk then announced that all final term exams would take place in a mock tower climb. Hearing that, Hajin could only sigh that time passed so quickly. Kim Soo-hyuk explained that the theme of this exam was a real combat simulation used by guilds before raiding the actual tower. He told them to treat it as a real fight. Hearing that, Hajin felt a bit confused. Honestly, he wasn't too sure about this part. He only studied the first-year cube exam parts and skimmed the rest. He regretted it now. After the cadets lined up to enter the portal, Kim Soo-hyuk continued explaining. The exam would start with them all gathered at the same starting point. Once inside, they would automatically be placed in their respective locations, so he asked them not to be surprised. And when the line finally reached Hajin, he stepped into the portal, and right as he entered, the surroundings suddenly changed 180 degrees. The place was pitch black, making him unable to see anything, but Hajin didn't panic or feel scared. He felt they might turn on the lights once the exam officially started. Even so, Hajin thought there was no harm in checking the surroundings. Hajin then activated Eagle Eye and saw what was there. From the outside, it looked like a small building, but inside it was quite spacious. He also saw a path on the right wall, but, right after that, the room's lights suddenly turned on. The sudden change in lighting really made his eyes uncomfortable. He wondered if it was some kind of disturbance, but other than that, he didn't see anything strange. But, he then saw something on the wall in front of him. It was a text explaining 3 rules: climb in cooperation with those in white, watch out for traps, trust carries weight. Hajin could only stay silent reading that. The rules were clearly made to make ranked players stand out, but this allowed him to conclude something, that the Jin had taken control of about 30% of Cube. But, while he was thinking about that, he then saw something odd in one direction, and when he walked there was a bridge. Although it clearly looked like a trap, he didn't see another path, so he wanted to try it. But, while Hajin was crossing the bridge, he suddenly felt something and immediately dodged. Several arrows suddenly appeared and shot toward him, but fortunately, Hajin could react quickly and managed to dodge the arrows. It wasn't something difficult for him with Eagle Eye. Hajin didn't just dodge. He then caught the arrows with his hand and threw them back forward with force. The thrown arrows then caused a large explosion when they hit the wall in front of him. Seeing the trap's trigger now broken, Hajin laughed happily. This was nothing compared to Rachel's sword. But, when Hajin felt he was safe, something unexpected suddenly happened. The bridge he was standing on suddenly broke. Hajin was thrown into confusion by the sudden change. With nothing to hold on to, Hajin then fell freely downward while screaming in panic.